The heroine lost both her parents as a child. When she was lonely, she unexpectedly found peace in fantasy novels. The girl loved it when the main characters of these stories got into absurd accidents, after which they found themselves in new, unfamiliar places. That day, the girl was chatting with her friend about a character who died in a bus accident and was transported to another dimension. While the girls were chatting happily, the screeching of wheels was heard. The bus flipped over, shattering the glass into thousands of tiny pieces. The girl never thought that she would get into a bus accident. There were many school children lying on the cold ground, badly injured. The brunette couldn't believe that she would die like this. The girl's face was covered with many abrasions. With each passing minute, it became harder and harder for her to breathe. The brunette realized that her life had no special meaning and was losing all sense for her. The girl sincerely hoped that her friend Hee-yeon would survive. The girl realized that Hee-yeon was always there when she was lonely. The brunette reached out with the last of her strength to grab her best friend's hand. She began to pray that her dear friend would be blessed with eternal happiness. The brunette realized that such a voice could only exist in a fairy tale world. The girl assumed that she had died and gone to heaven, and when she woke up, she found herself on the battlefield. There was no fear in the brunette's eyes, and only a crazy smile on her face. The loud clanging of swords was heard very close. The brunette stood up and looked around properly. The girl saw a crowd of people armed with swords and spears in front of her. A strong wind fluttered the blood-red flags. The brunette could not understand where she was. The girl was sure that a few moments ago she was lying in front of an overturned bus. With a cry, one of the warriors swung a huge saber. Covering her face with her hands, the brunette asked the stranger to move away from her. As soon as the girl opened it, she saw that the formidable sword was burning with a blue flame. The brunette was amazed that the sword suddenly melted. The girl looked at her hands with surprise and admiration where a blue flame was burning. The heroine could not believe that it was all in her hands. Blue flames burned around her. With her superpower, she quickly destroyed her enemies. The commander-in-chief explained that this was enough. The boy ordered all the warriors to lower their weapons. Bowing, the blonde asked for forgiveness for their insolence. The red cloak fluttered behind the blonde. The commander-in-chief explained that his soldiers should be afraid of strangers. The boy's blue eyes shone, reflecting the sun's light, whose rays were breaking through the dark clouds. Without letting go of his hand, the girl stepped back. The brunette asked who the boy was. The blonde introduced himself as Eric Krovia. The guy explained that everyone addressed him as a prince, abandoned on the battlefield because he had nowhere to go. The soldiers jumped sharply. The prince explained that he was on the verge of death, having fallen into an ambush, while the stranger's magic scared them and made them run away. The blonde thanked the girl for saving his life. Eric explained that he would not question her about her origins or identity. The blonde offered the heroine a safe place where she could stay for a while. As the guy approached, she suddenly shuddered. Penetrating the girl with his blue eyes, he asked why she didn't go with him. The blonde extended his hand, offering to make such a deal. Luckily, the girl accepted the offer. But unfortunately, the stranger was in no hurry to be accepted into the empire. High-ranking people were against the guy bringing an unknown person to the palace. The aristocracy didn't understand what all this meant. The boy explained that she was his honored guest. Eric asked everyone to address her with respect. The girl realized that despite her divine powers, she was a high school student who had traveled to another dimension alone. The brunette understood that she needed someone who could vouch for her. The girl understood perfectly well that Eric needed her strength. Since that fateful day, the brunette became a sword and led the Krovian Empire to victory. Thanks to her, Eric was able to inherit the throne. In gratitude, the boy awarded her the title of Count, despite the fact that she was a woman of unknown origin. At first, the aristocracy strongly resisted, but after the girl conquered the hostile empire of the kingdom, such talk gradually died down. The events are transferred 10 years ahead to the ballroom of the Krovian Imperial Palace. The aristocracy was in a luxurious hall. Everything sparkled with cleanliness and wealth. The hall was huge, despite the small number of people. The arrival of Her Serene Highness Princess Serena Artes was announced. After this announcement, people turned in admiration to behold her ladyship, her luxurious hair fluttering with every step she took. The girl was dressed in a blood-red jacket with dark sleeves and trousers. After Siren's appearance, she was showered with many compliments. The guests were delighted with her appearance. With shining eyes, Sirena thanked for the compliments. Turning to the girl, Eric noticed that his goddess had already arrived. The blond man raised his glass of wine with a beaming smile. His glass was covered in gold leaf, and on his chest shone a two-headed eagle. Siren snapped that she had already told him more than once to stop this nonsense about the goddess. The guy smiled and remarked that she looked great with bleached hair. The Siren coldly replied that the guy should save his compliments for his fiancée. Pointing at the furious girl, the blonde explained that she had been watching her for a long time. The red-haired girl was literally flushed with jealousy. The guy assured the blonde that there was nothing between them. The blonde filled Serena that it was just a political alliance. Raising his glass, Eric announced that their banquet today was held to welcome the most honored guest from the kingdom of Arinia. Drops of wine splashed from the sudden movement. The blonde asked the guests to eat, drink, and be merry. The hall was filled with joyful exclamations. The Siren reminded them with disgust that the guy had blackmailed them with a raid on the kingdom and had taken their prince hostage. The girl noticed that her story was more like the truth. The gray eyes pierced the guy through and through. The blonde asked where the guest of honor was. The guy asked in surprise if she was really interested. The Siren answered coldly that he knew the reason very well. His Majesty said that the prince would be in the palace building for a while. The boy said that he had originally sent the boy to greet the aristocrats. Pointing his finger, the blonde replied that the guest of honor was in a small crowd. Eric asked his friend if she had seen that man next to the prince. The blonde noticed that the guy in the white shirt had white hair. Serena's heart sank as she was amazed by the stranger's beauty. The girl realized that despite the fact that she was a character in a crazy fairy tale world, it seemed to come from some other genre. With a heavy sigh, Eric noticed that the guy's face was to her taste. The blonde asked again in surprise, as if denying what had just been said. Catching the guy's gaze, the girl asked to find a friend, someone who would not like such a face. Approaching her chosen one, the girl with copper hair took his hand with a sliding motion. The bride looked into her beloved's green eyes and reminded him that it was time for the first dance. The beautiful girl's name was Olivia, and she was the bride of Emperor Eric Crovion. A little embarrassed, the blonde asked his chosen one if she would really be his partner. Having answered positively, the girl smiled. With some disdain, Siren looked at the loving couple, realizing that they had finally sorted things out. Approaching the girl, the prince asked her if it seemed to Her Highness that the holiday was boring. Looking back, the girl saw a guy with a beautiful face. The blonde asked Serena if she would do him the honor of dancing with him. The guy suddenly pulled his hand in a snow-white glove. Very embarrassed, Serena explained that she was not a fan of dancing. The prince nervously assumed that she simply didn't want to dance with him, realizing that the blonde wouldn't convince her, even with his cute face. The girl's voice was shaking badly, but she still decided to extend her hand, accepting the invitation. Serena did not understand what the guy was trying to do. A few moments later, the handsome man gently kissed her hand. A few moments later, someone addressed her ladyship. Bowing deeply, the boy dared to suggest that he could make the girl's heart beat even faster. The prince shook her hand and thanked her ladyship. The siren explained that the boy should have known that she was not a very good dancer. Soon the melody of violins filled the luxurious hall. The blonde was dancing with the guy. Only after some time, the girl dared to ask the name of the guy with the cute face. The handsome man introduced himself as Ricardo Areno. The blonde asked to call him simply Rico. Serena hesitated for a few moments. The girl asked his name again. The blonde answered positively. With a strong jerk, the girl turned his head. The blonde asked what he meant when he said that he would make her heart beat faster. Serena realized that her plan had failed. Apparently, she accepted the invitation to dance to ask him about something. The blonde created the idea that Ricardo was unaware of it. The girl confidently let go of his hand, realizing that she would not learn the information she needed. The blonde abruptly grabbed his new acquaintance by the hand. The guy explained that he wanted to return something to the girl. Ricardo specified that he would very much like to return her heart. There was slight embarrassment on the blonde's face. His blue eyes were directed at his new acquaintance. Siren, hearing these words, almost felt the beating of her heart. The girl understood that this was impossible since she did not have a heart. The blonde realized this fact only 2 years after she got into this fairy tale world. Memories of the war suddenly came upon the girl. At that moment, under the pretext that she wanted to finish what she had started 2 years earlier, she searched the place where she found herself in this world. At that moment, Serena was furiously trying to dig the ground with her hands. The blonde was sure that she had lost her heart there. When the girl looked back, she was as if in a delirium. Returning to the military camp, she told the prince that she had not found the loss. Crossing his arms, the boy suggested that it was best to keep this between them. Eric reminded her that there were already rumors about her demonic powers. The blonde explained that public sentiment towards the girl was at an all-time low. The girl continued to search for her heart without success. She spent hours in the library trying to find at least some information. The girl couldn't understand why she couldn't forget about him and live a happy life as a knight. Siren has gone through countless battles without a single scratch. The girl has survived wounds that would have killed anyone else in her place. Demonic fire often helped her in battles. Her body was often badly wounded by arrows and swords. The hardened metal shone from her back. Siren didn't know if it would last the rest of her life. The girl was afraid that she wouldn't be able to handle such absolute power. She could easily pull out arrows or spears from her back and move on. Siren was very afraid of being left alone in this unknown world for thousands of years. The blonde dreamed of returning to his world and becoming human again. The girl's consciousness was pierced by this mysterious and no less interesting phrase. The siren chose to quickly leave. The blonde couldn't understand what he had done wrong. The boy quickly followed his companion. The aristocracy assumed that the princess had taken a liking to the prince. The nobles were afraid that the girl would kill him. The blonde understood that no one knew her secret about the missing heart except herself and Eric. The girl could not understand how the prince of another kingdom could find out about this. As soon as the girl and the guy were out of sight, she grabbed him by the neck and pressed him hard against the wall. Siren asked him with fury how he knew about her heart. The moon illuminated the boy's frightened face. Siren held him tightly by the throat. She asked how he knew about the loss of her heart. With a trembling voice, the blonde asked her to wait and let him go. The same blue demonic flames that the girl had began to form on his hands. Giving him a hard slap, Siren asked who he really was. The blonde realized that in all her time in this world, she had never met a person with the same powers as hers. The girl was sure that she felt his pulse. The siren understood that his heart, unlike hers, was in place. After this incident, Rico's heart was pounding wildly. The blonde couldn't understand where this guy came from. Holding his throat, the blonde asked her to calm down and promised to tell her everything. Ricardo explained that it happened to him 2 years ago. The boy and his faithful steed were in the lands of Arinia. A black horse with its head held high strode across the deserted lands. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, the boy saw a heart that was radiating a scarlet light. The blonde hesitantly extended his hand towards it. At that moment, the heart that was lying there began to beat wildly. After the touch, at that very moment, it was swallowed up by a dark, long, tunnel-like space. Raising his head in complete darkness, the boy wondered where he had been. Ricardo assumed that he had fallen into the ground. When the blonde's eyes adjusted to the darkness, he recoiled in horror. In front of him was a huge creature that looked like a reptile. Ricardo realized that it was a dragon and assumed that it was no longer alive. The blonde's body was pierced by an underground cold. His body began to tremble violently. The boy realized that he needed to prepare some food in reserve. Ricardo didn't know how long he could hold out there. Above the guy's head, there was a hole through which the sun's rays barely passed, and he realized that he would need a lot of strength to get out of there. Swallowing nervously, the boy realized that the dragon was the only thing in the dungeon that could be eaten. Covered in a cold sweat, he looked at the monster whose fangs were as tall as he was. As soon as Ricardo tasted a small piece of flesh, his body began to tremble, and his throat felt like it was burning. With each passing second, the boy found it harder to breathe, and his consciousness sank into darkness. And when he came to, he did not know how much time had passed. The blonde, when he came to, felt as if a new incredible force was seething inside him. Blue flames played on his palms. Without wasting time to think, Ricardo began to climb up. Despite the fact that small ledges often broke off, returning him to the starting point, but he did not give up. A week later, the blonde managed to get to the surface. Soon after the accident, the guy was able to return to Arinia. Several years later, rumors that the Countess had arrived in Arinia in search of something filled the entire kingdom. Siren angrily punched the wall next to the guy and asked him what he wanted to say. The girl's face was distorted with anger, and she asked what relation he had to her heart. The blonde asked how he knew that the heart belonged to her. With a smile, Ricardo asked the girl if she knew anything about his homeland. A little confused, Serena remembered that the emblem of Arinia, domesticate, a dragon. The boy noticed that she was right. Ricardo explained that it was believed that as a symbol of their friendship, the founder of Arinia gave the dragon her heart in exchange for strength. The ability allowed her to throw mountain-sized boulders with a single finger. The founder could split mountains with a single swing of her blade. Ricardo assumed that the new acquaintance had probably heard this story. The blonde, squeezing her hand tightly, causing the wall to crack, realized that this story was definitely about her powers. The girl had heard this legend many times, but considered it pure fiction. The siren was surprised that there was a witness who saw it with his own eyes. This circumstance changed the matter radically. Ricardo had a smile on his face. Turning around, the girl realized that she needed to go to Arinia as quickly as possible. The blonde stopped the girl and explained that he wanted to ask her something. Smiling, Ricardo asked if she would do him the honor of marrying him. A slight shudder ran through the girl's body. The blonde asked again uncertainly. Poking her finger hard into the guy's chest, she asked if he was really asking to become her sweet and submissive wife in exchange for telling her the secret of her heart. Taking her hand gently, Ricardo explained to her ladyship that her assumptions were not correct. He gently stroked his face with his hand. The blonde explained to Selenia that he had only asked if she would like to become his wife. The guy's face blossomed into a radiant smile in the blink of an eye. Quickly entering the room, the girl abruptly placed a fresh issue of the newspaper in front of Her Highness. The article discussed how Countess Artes had grabbed Prince Ricardo and taken him to the balcony. The girl was furious when she showed Sirena the new issue. The blonde's name was Laura Ines. She was the daughter of a baron. The girl was surprised by what was written about her date with Prince Ricardo on the balcony. The Countess couldn't understand what kind of nonsense the newspaper had written. With a smile on her face, the blonde asked how it could be a date if neither of them were engaged. Laura suggested suing the newspaper that was spreading gossip. The Baroness insisted that the girl should use her great luck for good. Laura, flaring with rage, suggested that they all be arrested and thrown into prison. Smiling, the blonde explained that this should not be done. The Countess claimed that she thought it was quite funny. Siren asked Laura to stop grumbling and answer her question. The blonde lifted her cup, wanting to taste the freshly brewed tea. The Countess reminded her that the girl was her only friend. The siren reminded the Baroness that she specialized in ancient history. Laura noticed that her friend had told the truth. The Baroness asked why she was suddenly interested in Irinia's story. Serena hesitated a little, trying to come up with an answer. The girl replied that she wanted to become a little educated. The Countess knew she shouldn't tell Laura about her heart, or rather the lack thereof. The girl told her that the legend said that the founder of the kingdom gave her heart to a dragon. Laura noticed that this was pure absurdity and old fairy tales. The Baroness claimed that she had answered the question that interested her friend. The blonde asked to tell Siren about what happened between her and the prince at the ball. Sighing heavily and putting the kettle on, the Countess explained that nothing remarkable had happened. The girl admitted that the guy had simply proposed to her. Laura was shocked by such news and asked again. The Countess was still focused on the story that the guy had told her. Smiling, Ricardo asked if she would do him the honor of marrying him. The blonde wondered what kind of nonsense he was talking about. She almost fell for his handsome looks. The prince claimed that his proposal would be very beneficial for the girl. Penetrating the guy with her gray-blue eyes, the blonde asked how it would be beneficial for her. Smiling, Ricardo assumed that she had just thought that she would run to Arinia first thing in the morning. The girl was already looking forward to getting her heart back. After the positive answer, a smile lit up the boy's face. The prince explained that the girl would not be able to get in. Instantly darkening, the girl asked why she would not be able to. Rico insisted that she couldn't because of what happened in Arinia after he got out of that hole. The aristocracy was genuinely surprised that the prince returned alive. Many thought it was impossible. The dark-haired boy ordered everyone to be silent. The king turned to his son and explained that he was glad to have him back. The man extended his hand to his son. The brunette abruptly tugged the boy's hand. Raising the prince like a kitten, he ordered him to tell what had happened to him. Fear shone in his blue eyes. Horrible experiments began to be conducted on the blonde. Scientists wanted to make soldiers as strong as he was to fight against the strongest countess in the empire. Every day, the boy was tortured, and this went on for years. He screamed in agony during most of these experiments, and his body was pierced by hot and cold. The experiments were stopped only when the dragon's powers left him, and the war ended in their defeat. From then on, the kingdom became the queen's private property. The woman's authority became absolutely unshakable. With a beaming smile, the boy explained that this was why even a high-ranking countess of the empire would not be able to freely enter those lands. Serena covered her face with her hands in despair. With a smile on his face, the blonde explained that everything could change if they got married. Ricardo stated that the girl would be able to become a member of the ruling family of Arinia and would receive the status of a count in the empire. The blonde noticed that he had clearly lied about losing her dragon powers. Having answered positively, the guy explained that this was the only way to stop the terrible experiments. Still smiling, Rico asked if the girl would accept his offer. From that day on, the blonde couldn't stop thinking about playing along with him. The siren reassured herself that if necessary, she would always have time to make him pay for his crimes. After hearing the news of the proposal, Laura froze like a stone. With wild eyes, the blonde asked her friend if she knew where Ricardo was staying. The Baroness, hesitating a bit, explained that, according to the stories, the prince was visiting the imperial palace. With a crazy smile, Serena suggested that it was time for her to go there. The girl's friend quickly called out to the girl, wondering if she was really going to do it right now. With a smile on her face, the countess explained that she was ready to accept his offer. Eric curiously asked his girlfriend if she was really interested in that prince. The blonde replied that if the girl wanted to marry him, she could do so. The guy was actively aiming at the cue ball, wishing to knock down as many balls as possible. Sitting down on the pool table, the blonde noted that she did not expect her friend to approve of this. The prince explained that only the girl could decide her fate, and no one would dare to oppose her will. After the boy hit the white ball with the cue, it quickly rolled the 8 into the hole. Eric, with a calm face, reminded that the marriage could always be annulled. The blonde explained that he would have preferred to refuse. Serena asked if he had just told her to get married. The guy explained that he knew she couldn't be stopped. Eric admitted that he was very worried about his friend. The guy reminded Serena that she herself told him that her emotions were becoming more and more confused with each passing day. The prince admitted that this greatly increased his anxiety. Eric explained that at times the countess's conditions seemed dangerous to him. Taking aim at the ball, Serena noticed that he was right. The blonde admitted that he was worried about his friend, that she would never know what it meant to love. Proudly placing the cue next to her, the blonde reminded that she had already said more than once that her brother did not know that she loved Ricardo. The guy asked her to admit that she liked that prince. The blonde asked if she would deny it. Siren rolled her eyes in displeasure, not answering. Eric assumed that could be taken as a positive answer. The blonde explained that he didn't want to know more. Adjusting her bangs, Serena explained that she wanted to ask him for a favor. The girl warned that it could be difficult. With a heavy sigh, the blonde asked her to tell him, and promised that she would get everything she wanted. The siren whispered something in the guy's ear. Having knocked all the balls off the table, the prince asked if she had gone crazy. Eric explained that he could do anything but that. The girl explained that she would get a little if he sold it. The blonde asked furiously what had just happened. Walking away from the angry guy, the blonde explained that she understood everything perfectly. The events are transferred to Ricardo's piece. The blonde lived in an annex of the imperial palace. A girl in an olive jacket and dust-colored pants stood at the huge, luxurious door. Serena realized that she had already arrived. The blonde wondered how and where to start the conversation. Ricardo creaked the door open. With a beaming smile, the boy greeted her ladyship. Serena coldly asked where all his servants were. The girl reminded them that they had to open the doors. The blonde went inside without hesitation. The prince admitted that he didn't really like being surrounded by other people. Ricardo asked the girl if she had the same preferences with their peculiarities. A small fly was flying in the silence. Siren was carefully tracking the annoying insect. When a fly landed on the butler's cheek, the girl slapped him across the face with all her might, trying to kill the insect. The blonde was horrified when the butler fell unconscious. The girl tried to explain in a trembling voice that she simply wanted to kill the insect. With tears in her eyes, the maid noticed that her ladyship had hit the butler. The guy fell face down on the exquisite service. The ceramic shards were stuck in the boy's face. The servant tried with all his might to shake his colleague to make him come to his senses. Laughing, Siren asked if the blonde had never experienced anything like this. A little embarrassed, the prince explained that he had never been a person before losing his senses. The girl gracefully sat down on a luxurious sofa. The siren said that she had come because they had not finished their conversation at the ball. Smiling, the prince noted that he understood Her Highness's position perfectly well. Ricardo assumed that such an unexpected proposal confused the girl. The guy realized for what purpose she came. The blonde offered the girl to draw up a contract and stipulate some conditions. The countess was confused about what conditions he wanted to offer her. With a smile on his face, the blonde explained that if she wanted to have a lover, he would not be against it. Ricardo promised to endure this so as not to disturb the countess. The siren was amazed at what a bastard the guy perceived her as. Without the slightest hesitation, the girl took the contract. The countess explained that she would introduce some conditions if the prince proposed to her. Snatching the security and tearing it up, Serena explained that there was no need for this. The girl promised to accept his offer if he answered her question honestly. The countess asked what benefit the boy had from marrying her. The girl asked what the reason for his actions was. The blonde explained that it was easier for her to believe that he had conspired with the queen to use her. Ricardo looked at her with a surprised look. The girl explained that instead of marrying the one who made him like that, the girl hesitated and took him by the chin, looking him intently in the eyes. The prince asked if the girl really wanted to take revenge on the queen. The siren explained that he was completely wrong. The blonde explained that he still remembered when she first saw her. The girl asked again in surprise if their first meeting hadn't taken place at the ball. Ricardo explained that their first meeting had not taken place at a ball. The prince reminded her that it had happened on the very day the girl had destroyed his kingdom. The kingdom of Arinia offered the dragon's heart to the Empire's sword as a symbol of their defeat. The king knelt, bowing and admitting his defeat. The girl glanced at Eric and asked if he was telling her about this jewel. The guy nodded humbly, looking at her with a smile. The winner didn't even look at the precious pink heart-shaped stone. The king was furious that he was giving away the national treasure to an upstart countess. The girl noticed that the jewel was quite beautiful. The pink stone shimmered in her hands, reflecting the glare of the bright sun. The siren squeezed the dragon's heart tightly, breaking it into many small pieces. The guy looked at his girlfriend in surprise, not understanding what she was doing. People watched in horror as the national treasure was turned into a multitude of small fragments. The king watched with tears in his eyes. The man asked what the girl had done. The king explained that the dragon's heart was the purest jewel. Eric, very nervous, asked everyone to calm down. The blonde explained that the countess did not do it intentionally. At that moment, Ricardo realized that the reign of his kingdom was over. A small smile appeared on the prince's face. Ricardo explained that he did not care about the girl's intentions. The blonde explained that thanks to her, the queen's laboratory, where he suffered endlessly, was destroyed. Many precious fragments shone on the floor. The girl looked down in shame and asked for forgiveness, explaining that she had not meant to squeeze the jewel so tightly. Ricardo explained that at that moment he decided, no matter what, to return the heart of his savior. The prince recalled this moment with tears of happiness in his eyes. The guy was holding a large watch on a chain. The prince assumed that it was at that moment that he fell in love with Serena. Having cast a piercing glance at Ricardo, the girl asked him not to make her laugh. The prince curiously asked why the countess took it as a joke. Ricardo explained that it was only one of the reasons why he wanted to help her. The prince explained that after she took him as a trophy, he wanted the girl to capture Arinia. Ricardo explained that he really wanted the countess to take her hidden heart. The blonde admitted that he really wanted the girl to trample every hope of the kingdom into the dust under her feet. With shining eyes, Ricardo explained that he sincerely wanted to see it with his own eyes. The Countess grinned and explained that she liked this reason much better. Serena explained that she would call him Rico from now on. Her blue eyes sparkled with joy. The blonde explained that she had one more condition. The guy was ready to listen to his beloved. The siren coldly asked him never to fall in love with her. The blonde explained that it would be too much of a burden. Her thick blonde hair fell down the back of the sofa. After a slight hesitation, Rico nodded positively. The Countess explained that she had been looking forward to collaborating with him. Shaking the girl's hand, Ricardo explained that the feeling was mutual. The Countess suggested that they begin preparing for their wedding. A radiant smile shone on the prince's face. Sunbeams ran across the roofs. Small clouds slowly floated in the blue sky. Serena held out the box and explained that she wanted to use its contents. With a click, the box opened, revealing exquisite red velvet. Carefully taking the jewel with tweezers, the brunette noticed that the stone was the legendary dragon's eye. The pink stone shone beautifully, showing all its beauty. Glancing awkwardly at the blonde, the girl was surprised that the jewel was called exactly that. The events are transferred to several hours ago. Approaching Serena, the girl reported that His Majesty sent her a gift. In the message, the prince explained that, thanks to her, he had difficulty removing the jewel from his crown. The blonde was surprised that after all the fuss, her chosen one still sent her the jewel. Diamonds glittered on the snow-white box. The Countess realized that after she crushed the dragon's heart, the Aryans gave Eric another precious stone, the dragon's eye. The blonde asked the jeweler if he was done staring. The craftsman was clearly surprised by the question. The siren asked him to make a ring that would not be conspicuous. The boy asked in a trembling voice if she really wanted him to make a modest ring out of something so valuable. The jeweler explained that in all his work, he had never received such a request. The brunette excitedly asked if the girl didn't like the ring he made for her last time. Having answered negatively, the girl explained that she wouldn't be wearing that ring. The siren was sure that her chosen one would definitely be surprised. The jeweler curiously asked if the jewel would really be an engagement gift. With eyes shining with joy, Ricardo asked if the blonde had chosen something for herself. The girl was surprised that her chosen one had arrived so early. Serena explained that she had already finished choosing. The Countess did not understand what the guy was doing next to her. The girl remembered that he had ordered him to wait. The blonde wanted to make a surprise ring for the wedding. The jeweler quickly hid the stone in the box. With a smile on his face, Ricardo asked if his chosen one wanted to tell him something. Having looked at the guy, the Countess explained that everything suited him. Serena leaned over to examine the new garment. The Countess explained that she had decided to purchase all the men's accessories that were on the shelves. The jeweler's eyes lit up when he heard that the girl was ready to buy his entire collection. A little embarrassed, the guy explained that there was no need for that. The guy reminded her that the most powerful countess in the empire was getting married. Smiling, the girl explained that it was the least she could do for her future husband. The blonde's heart began to pound in his chest. Serena sighed with relief, realizing that her fiancé hadn't noticed anything. 2 bay horses, harnessed to a luxurious carriage, trotted along the cobbled street. The prince's heart was pounding in anticipation of such an important event. Ricardo thanked his chosen one for her generosity. The girl replied that there was no need to thank her. The blonde asked if he could pay by taking charge of the wedding. The siren asked him why he had to do that. The blonde explained that Eric had said to leave this hassle to the imperial palace. The guy explained that he was desperately clinging to this marriage. The prince explained that besides himself, there was a second potential heir to the throne in Arinia. Ricardo explained that, for the sake of the throne, he had to convince them that their union was not simply for the sake of gaining power, but was born of pure love. Serena asked with displeasure if that was all it was. The blonde asked if it wasn't enough to organize a wedding. The girl noted that if we don't take into account the royal family, they will have to fight with the aristocrats of the empire. The countess was sure that all the parasites would go out of their way to prevent their wedding. The girl had already noticed unkind looks on herself more than once. Many people discussed the union of Countess Artes and a foreign prince. The aristocracy generally gossiped about what the girl would do with such power. Ricardo noticed that his beloved's relationship with the aristocracy was far from ideal. The prince asked if the girl had a fragment of the dragon's heart left. The girl was stunned by such an unexpected question, but after a short pause, she nodded positively. The blonde suggested that they put pieces of the jewel into something and send it to the nobility, along with a letter of thanks for their loyalty to the empire. Serena asked the blonde if he really thought that this would restore their relationship. Nodding approvingly, the guy explained that he sincerely believed in it. Ricardo explained that the aristocracy craved recognition from those who ruled them as much as they wanted to suppress those who did not. The Countess considered this proposal. The girl was curious how they would react to such a valuable gift. Smiling, Serena explained that in any case, she was glad that she would marry him. The prince reminded the girl that they still hadn't had the engagement ceremony. The carriage with many gifts stopped at the palace. Ricardo suggested that the bride let the servants serve their wedding as he wished. The guy explained to his chosen one that the power of gossip was much stronger than she thought. Looking out of the carriage window, the girl explained that the power of gossip was what they needed. The siren explained that if he wanted to be part of high society, that was what they needed. The guy giggled nervously after looking at the bride. The trunk of the carriage was filled with many large and bright boxes with gifts. Entering the castle, Serena apologized to the servants for causing inconvenience with her unexpected visit. The butler explained that it was an honor for them to receive her. Serena remembered that her fiancé had said that he had been invited to a special evening of love poetry readings. The Duchess was bored even thinking about it. Shortly before the wedding, Rico told the girl that he had received an invitation from Countess Fursha. Nervously adjusting her hair, the girl asked if he really was going to go there. Serena understood that despite the fact that the guy came for a spoon from the other side, he quickly joined the Imperial High Society. The blonde was curious how things were going with her fiancé. The butler bowed and pointed to the luxurious oak door. The man reported to the girl that the prince was in that room. Lightning fast, the countess grabbed the door handle, trying to open it. The servant explained that he told the girl this only because the countess was not there. Looming over the prince, the boy asked if he had followed any plans since their first meeting. Ricardo calmly sipped some freshly brewed tea, ignoring the stupid slander. Without letting up, the guy explained that it didn't matter to him whether he was striving for her status or wanting to win all her love. The prosecutor noticed that something was unfair. Putting his teacup down on the table, Ricardo explained that he had never lied to his fiancée. The blonde noticed that the boy's remark could be interpreted as disdain for her ladyship's judgment. Jumping back, the boy explained that he hadn't meant that at all. The blonde explained that her ladyship was not used to communicating with men. Listening attentively to the conversation, Serena could not hold back a laugh. The girl could feel her fiancé's gaze even through the door. The countess whispered, asking if the guy could hear her from there. The girl noticed that the dragon's power was downright omnipotent. A slight smile appeared on the guy's face. Ricardo explained that he and the princess had mutual feelings. The boy asked the prince what he meant by that. His Majesty explained that they both fell in love at first sight. Ricardo explained that the girl had treated him with the greatest kindness. The prince asked if it was not right to have affection for such a person. The guy was furious, and his face turned white. Entering the room, the city's bride headed towards her lover. The girl explained that she knew that such behavior was against the label. The Serena explained that she would have to kidnap one of the guests. The blonde apologized to Lady Fursha for interrupting their tea party so rudely. The countess asked if the woman would be so kind as to visit her a little later. The blonde bowed deeply, showing all her respect. The brunette explained that it was an honor for her. Fursha asked what kind of event the girl would be organizing. The girl, taking the groom by the shoulder, explained that she was organizing a ball in honor of her engagement to Prince Ricardo. The guests present at the tea party turned around abruptly and began whispering. The countess announced that the celebration would be at her estate in a week. The girl hugged her modestly smiling lover. Bowing, the brunette congratulated Her Highness on her marriage. The countess was dressed in a blue corset and a white shirt. Serena assigned her personal stylist named Marina to the prince. The lady explained that the brunette would prepare a suit for the groom at the ball. Having bowed, Marina promised to fulfill her duties in the best possible way. The stylist admitted that she had never met such an inspiring model except for the emperor himself. After such a compliment, a smile appeared on Ricardo's face. The lady warned the brunette that there was one nuance. The countess explained that the ball was to take place in a week. The stylist's heart began to pound wildly. The girl promised to dress His Highness in the best clothes in the empire by the end of the week. Marina suddenly took out her tools and looked at the astonished prince with a crazy look. The girl quickly wrapped a measuring tape around him, choosing the perfect style. Judging by the speed of her work, it was clear that the stylist was the best of the best. Quickly leaving, Marina explained that she had taken approximate measurements and would soon return with samples. When the seamstress left, Ricardo asked why the bride was in such a hurry to announce her engagement. The countess hesitated a little and asked if it was really so unexpected for the guy. Serena explained that she had received a reply from one of the nobles to whom she had sent a gift. There had been much talk among the aristocracy about gifts from Countess Artis. The aristocracy was delighted by the sculptures decorated with nothing less than a dragon's heart. The aristocrats knew that they had to inform Her Highness immediately. The nobles thanked Her Grace for her sincere praise and valuable gift. The representatives of the aristocracy swore eternal allegiance to the Crovian Empire. The countess read the letter of thanks with a smile on her face. Serena realized that her gift had truly satisfied them. The girl explained that she thought that now was the best time to act. The blonde explained that it was necessary to strike while the iron was hot, that is, to act decisively. The guy turned around when he heard the sound of the door opening. Marina was carrying a variety of luxurious suits into the room. Having bowed, the girl invited Ricardo to try on the items he liked. Watching the long fitting, Serena ate a crispy cookie. The girl diligently enjoyed every bite of the treat. Handing over a check with a huge amount, the countess said that she would take everything that her fiancé tried on. Finishing another delicious cookie, the girl realized that she had always wanted to do something like this. The blonde remembered that she was obsessed with endless romantic series before she got into this wonderful world. Serena realized that if she didn't have the opportunity to try such pranks, then it was unlikely that she would ever have such an opportunity again. Trying on another suit, the prince asked his bride what she thought of his outfit. The snow-white suit with a black insert looked great on Ricardo. The clasps were glittering with precious purple stones. Smiling, the blonde asked what he looked like. The girl looked at him in a daze, because the prince had seemed handsome enough to her before. Marina sighed dreamily and explained that in all her years of work, she had never met anyone on whom this set would look so perfect. The stylist noticed that with His Highness' incredible appearance, the suit revealed all its beauty. But she noticed that the guy lacked something to complete the image. The countess informed Marina that she had brought something with her. Serena suggested using it as a finishing touch. The blonde held out her hand with a small ring with a brightly shining pink stone. The prince asked if it was a dragon's eye or not. Smiling, the countess explained that she could not give her future husband some trinket. A bright pink stone sat on Ricardo's graceful hand. A little embarrassed, the blonde explained that he wasn't sure he could accept such a valuable gift. Serena was surprised that it was too much for the guy. The blonde remembered that it was an arranged marriage after all. The countess explained that if the guy was really bothered by it, he could consider the ring as a down payment. The groom hesitated a little and asked if the gift was really just a contribution. The girl sighed with relief and suggested that she had cleared it all up. The lady asked Marina what her fiancé looked like. The brunette noticed that the ring was perfect. The stylist noticed that her ladyship never disappointed. The girl jokingly suggested that the prince would be the most dazzling young man at the ball. The guy awkwardly listened to the lady's compliments. The siren noticed that choosing a suit took longer than she expected. The blonde explained that she had never chosen men's clothing. The girl said that it was too late. The countess offered the boy to spend the night at her estate. Bowing, Ricardo explained that he would be very grateful. The boy's once shining gaze was gone, and there was sadness in his blue eyes. Siren wondered what he was so depressed about. The countess asked the boy if he liked his new clothes. The blonde froze at the sudden question, trying to find the right words. The prince insisted that he was not thinking about anything important. The guy explained that he was sure that the bride was choosing a gift for His Majesty at the jeweler's. The girl asked again about the gift with surprise. Serena asked if she really had to give Eric a gift. After an affirmative nod, the blonde asked why she had to do that. Remembering Eric's greeting, the girl realized that they seemed so close. The countess assured that nothing would ever happen between her and Eric. The siren claimed that the slightest opportunity for that had ended long ago. The countess explained that she understood his anxiety and explained that he could relax. The blonde explained that despite all the rumors, they would not break the marriage contract. The Countess held the door handle, intending to leave the room. The girl reassured the blonde that Eric was not her type. Hope shone in the blue eyes. The guy abruptly slammed the door in front of the blonde. Hanging over the girl, Ricardo asked if he was her type. The Countess turned around, not understanding what her future husband wanted from her. Gently taking the prince by the chin, Serena answered positively. The girl claimed that he was her type. A little embarrassed, the blonde explained that if he had managed to attract her attention even for a moment, then he was very glad that his face had fulfilled its task. The Countess became very nervous and asked if he was really hinting that she was so superficial that she judged people by their appearance. With a forced smile, Ricardo explained that he would not dare to say such a thing. The blonde explained that he gladly accepted the girl's offer. The Countess explained that if he needed help, he could call her. Soon the door creaked shut after the girl bowed. Serena blushed deeply, right up to her ears, not understanding why the groom came so close to her. The scene shifts to the practice field. A number of bent balls were standing by the fence, waiting to be fixed. The weapons whistled through the air, making a metallic ringing sound when they touched them. The sun's rays played on the swords in the hands of the trainees. Once again swinging her sword, Siren suggested that they train every day after the wedding. The blonde gracefully parried her blow. The prince was too focused on their duel to answer questions. The Countess admitted that she had not felt so alert for a long time. The guy assured that if his future wife wanted it, he would undoubtedly become her sparring partner. Ricardo managed to deliver a quick blow for the first time. The blonde was surprised that his friend deftly lifted into the air, doing a superb somersault. While still in the air, Siren swung her shining sword. There was a smile on the girl's face, her light hair swaying in the light wind. Landing, the girl presented the sword to the prince's throat. Smiling, she asked the guy not to dramatize and to get up quickly. The Countess explained that it was she who hit the ground. Siren realized that she had accidentally cut the boy's cheek. Scarlet drops of blood appeared on his snow-white skin. Wiping away the scarlet streams, Ricardo assumed that he had cut himself on the debris and suggested continuing. The girl assured him that she did not want to harm him. Lifting his handsome face, the girl explained that if he had dodged better, he would not have been hurt like that. As soon as Siren touched his face, the sadness changed to a shining smile. The Countess was a little angry with herself, because lately she had lived only for this beautiful face. The girl sincerely hoped that there would be no scar. The butler bowed deeply to Her Highness. The young man brought a plate with a letter. The brunette explained in a reserved manner that His Majesty had answered her letter. The girl opened the letter with curiosity, wanting to find out the answer of her old friend as soon as possible. Leaning on his sword, the prince asked if the important guest would come. The smile on the girl's face turned into misunderstanding and sadness. Siren replied that Eric would not come. Lighting the letter in a blue flame, the girl noted that he had the right to do as he pleased. The blonde explained that she invited the guy purely out of politeness. Siren was angry with Eric because she knew that he would be like that. The Countess asked him to write the answer for her. Bowing, the servant accepted the order. The girl asked the groom if he wanted to return to the palace. The Countess assured him that she still had some business to attend to. The blonde took the information into account. Ricardo said goodbye and hoped that they would meet on the day of the engagement. The blonde followed her groom with a long look. The rays of the setting sun painted the Duchess's property in burgundy shades. Ricardo, holding on to the sofa with difficulty, lay down on the soft mattress. There was a bandage on the guy's face, which covered a small wound. The blonde pressed his hand tightly to the wound. The prince pondered the events of such a busy day. Ricardo felt a certain sadness, considering how warmly the girl spoke of Erica. The blonde wondered when he and his bride would be able to get closer. The guy clutched the gold watch tightly in his hands and looked at the setting sun. Clutching the piece of paper tightly in her hands, Laura explained that she was honored that her friend had personally written the invitation. With a smile on her face, the blonde excitedly imagined that her friend would soon be throwing a ball in honor of her engagement. Laura noticed that the Countess was as polite as ever. The hero of the occasion explained that it was necessary to act quickly in order to take everyone by surprise. The Baroness anxiously asked her friend if she would see her after the wedding. Smiling, Serena explained that her friend knew the answer to her question. The blonde explained to the Baroness that even if she divorced Ricardo, she would not break her connection with her. Laura asked again about the divorce and asked not to joke about it. The blonde clearly did not hide that she was pleased to hear about it. The Baroness explained that no matter what choice her friend made, she would support her in everything. The girl remembered her friend in her past life. The Countess fell silent, remembering those wonderful days. Serena realized that the girls were indeed similar. Noticing that her friend hesitated, the Baroness asked her what had happened. Laughing, the Duchess explained that she had remembered something. Laura noticed that from their first meeting, the blonde had been unusual. The Baroness slammed her palms on the table and asked why she couldn't do it. The girl asked if there was a law that prohibited women from taking the entrance exam to the Imperial Academy. The blonde explained that most of the aristocrats' talents were better developed in other areas. Laura was furious that the only areas open to them were tea parties and choosing luxurious clothes. Hearing her friend's indignation, the Countess approached and asked what was happening. Everyone started whispering when they saw Princess Artis herself. Laura looked at her friend with admiration, because she was the only woman in the empire who held the title of princess. The man explained that it was just a small commotion. The Countess explained that imperial law stated that a woman could not earn a princely title. The brunette tried to explain with a trembling voice, but only unintelligible babble came out of her mouth. The siren sternly asked if the man really had nothing to answer. Turning to the girl, Serena asked her name. With admiration, the blonde introduced herself as Laura Ines. There were sounds of fussing behind her. The Countess's servants were furious and told the man that the princess should have been addressed properly. Laughing, Serena explained that it was not worth doing. The girl insisted that she actually liked it much better that way. The blonde decided to return to the topic and reminded that she had received the princely title as a woman. The siren explained that there was no reason why Lady Laura could not pass the examination. In a trembling voice, the examiner explained to her ladyship that she was right. The blonde ordered the servants to make sure the girl could pass the exam. The raven-haired boy accepted the order. Laura thanked her ladyship with a trembling voice. The girl went outside, and the sun's rays played on her luxurious hair. Lady Laura saw her heroine off with a smile on her face. The Baroness asked her friend if she knew how she was shining at that moment. At that moment, Siren felt like she had brought about a big change. Tea splashed in the princess's cup, blurring her image. The Baroness caused a great commotion, and it was quite funny. The men discussed how the entrance exam to the academy was not a grace that a self-taught woman could handle. Someone remarked that it was quite difficult. The man claimed that the blonde would soon give in and go looking for her husband. But in reality, Serena couldn't change anything. The Countess explained that she really wanted to apologize to Laura for that incident. The Baroness explained that she simply lacked the skills and asked her friend not to worry about it. The blonde reassured her friend that she had everything except support from those around her. With a twinkle in her eye, Laura said that she was not giving up and was still studying hard. The blonde explained that she had done all she could. The Baroness said that she had recently read something interesting in a book. Without listening to her friend, Serena explained that she lived in a world where everyone was afraid of her, but Laura was one of the few who treated her without prejudice. Thinking back to her past life, the girl realized that she felt as comfortable with Laura as she did with He Young in her past life. Serena realized that she felt just as comfortable with Rico. The siren remembered that the boy had promised her another advantage that she would gain. That day, the prince had explained that if she married him, she would get an assistant who would understand her. The blonde didn't understand why the guy interested her so much. Without making small talk, the girl took a sip of hot tea. Laura asked her friend if she was listening. The Duchess apologized and explained that she had suddenly thought of Ricardo. A little angry, the Baroness explained that she thought their friendship was above the prince. Laughing, Serena apologized. The girl took the envelope with a luxurious wax seal. The Countess was surprised that in her hands was a letter from the Kingdom of Ariania. The blonde asked if he had come to her estate just to give her the letter. Ricardo said that he thought it would be better to open it together. Sitting down next to her chair, the blonde gently took her hand. The prince reminded her that they would soon be married. The guy held his beloved tenderly. The siren asked the groom if there was a letter from Queen Rita, who was his adoptive mother. Ricardo replied that her assumptions were correct. The prince asked Her Highness to wait. The girl had already broken the wax seal. The Countess was very alarmed by the smell of roses. The girl quickly realized that the letter was covered with a dangerous poison. Serena noticed that the blonde wasn't very surprised by such an incident. Looking down, the guy admitted that such things happened from time to time. Ricardo explained that he had survived his fair share of assassination attempts in his time. The blonde man wondered why her ladyship was not surprised by such an incident. The girl sat unharmed in a luxurious mahogany chair. Ricardo suggested that questions were unnecessary. The blonde explained that she always received death threats from defeated states. The Countess suggested moving on to the letter. On the poisoned piece of paper, it was written that rumors of an imminent marriage had reached Her Majesty. The Queen warned that her foolish husband had given his blessing, but the aristocracy was strongly opposed and asked the girl to forget any hope of the throne. The mother explained to Haug the blonde that he had managed to seduce the princess, but he would not lay a finger on her kingdom. Laughing, Serena asked if that was the whole point. The prince asked his bride not to pay attention to it. With trembling hands, the girl burned the letter to ashes. Clenching her fist tightly, the blonde chuckled that the marriage would definitely take place. For her celebration, the girl wore a luxurious red dress. The lush hem and sleeves were decorated with black bows, and jewelry hung around her neck. The siren was sure that after a long break, she would feel awkward wearing the fluffy dress. The Countess explained that she felt just wonderful in the outfit. The girl smiled and remarked that money could buy happiness. The seamstress explained that she would take this as praise for her handiwork. She explained that they had worked harder than before. The servant, clenching her fist tightly, remarked that Lady Olivia would never outshine the girl at the engagement party. The Countess wondered if such remarks were too much for a servant. The blonde remembered that Eric had said he wouldn't come. Serena realized that there was no guarantee that Olivia would be there either. Someone knocked on the door and asked if they could come in. The girl sighed heavily and allowed them in. The blonde sat down heavily on the chair after a long fitting. The groom entered the room with a radiant smile on his face. Ricardo was struck by the beauty of his chosen one. His eyes sparkled when he saw the bride. With a smile on her face, the Countess noticed that the suit suited the guy very well. The blonde noticed that her ladyship looked much more charming. The siren admitted that she was quite pleased with her outfit. Seeing the jewel in a luxurious white box, the guy asked the bride if he could help her with the necklace. The girl happily sipped wine after long fittings. Serena happily accepted her fiancé's proposal. The blonde lifted her luxurious golden hair with ease. As he skillfully fastened the decoration on the girl's neck, Ricardo noticed that this accessory suited Her Highness very well. Leaning over the girl, the prince asked if she thought he was more beautiful than any piece of jewelry. Gently kissing the boy's hand, her ladyship remarked that there would be no groom in the world who could compare to his magnificence. A slight shudder ran through Ricardo's body, his cheeks turned red. The girl curiously asked her betrothed how long he would call her Your Highness. The prince promised Lady Serena that he would watch his words from now on. Serena's court was in turmoil. Many nobles had come for her engagement. Zenith noticed that everything was as well organized as he had expected. One of the guys looked with admiration at the carriage that arrived at the palace. Olivia lifted the hem of her white and blue dress and stepped out of the luxurious carriage. When the siren noticed the imperial coat of arms, for a few moments she thought that His Majesty had arrived. The blonde realized that he had not accompanied the girl that evening. The prince bowed low and greeted the copper-haired girl. Olivia noticed that quite a while had passed since their last meeting at the banquet. The girl asked if this prince was doing well. Laughing, the man explained to her ladyship that no one in the empire after Her Majesty had succeeded as well as he had. The dark-haired man asked if Olivia had heard the latest gossip. The man wanted to tell her about the stone that was inlaid in the ring that Princess Artes had given to Prince Ricardo. Smiling, the newlyweds approached, noticing that both aristocrats were in the same place. Taking a glass of red wine from the tray, Zenith explained that he could not miss the celebration in honor of the one who had made such an invaluable contribution to their empire. Standing arm in arm with her fiancé, the Countess explained that she was glad that the man had accepted their invitation. Taking a sip of wine, the prince explained that the scale of her reception was truly in the status of Her Highness. Without letting the man finish his drink, the hero of the occasion knocked the glass away with a sharp movement of her hand. It broke into many small pieces, spilling its contents all over the red carpets. Zenith, taken aback, asked what the girl had done. Looking closely at the spilled drink, Ricardo noticed that something had been mixed in. The blonde noticed that his fiancée was indeed constantly being threatened. Taking a closer look, the prince realized that there really was something added to the glass. Looking around the hall filled with people, Siren realized that even on such a beautiful day, a killer from another country had sneaked into her territory. Under the girl's intense gaze, the waiter began to tremble violently. The countess ordered him to be seized. Laughing, the bride explained that the father had tried to kill her guests with a simple sleeping pill. Handing Zenit a new glass of wine, the girl offered him to drink the drink from the new glass. Looking around nervously, the prince noticed that even after the end of the war, there were many risks in the girl's life. The siren introduced the prince to her fiancé. The girl asked the fiancé if he remembered that Eric had introduced a man at the last ball. Having answered positively, the guy remembered that Zenith was his comrade in arms on the battlefield, so they knew each other well. Smiling, the brunette suggested that this was an unpleasant surprise for the prince, since such an event so often befell his bride. The prince asked how he would cope with such incidents. Taking the girl's hand, Ricardo explained that it was a small price to pay to be with Lady Serena. The prince explained that when he saw the newlyweds, it became clear to him that they were a great couple. Smiling, the lady explained that the brunette was as talkative as before. Feeling Olivia's gaze on her, the blonde turned around sharply. The girl apologized for the belated greeting. The newlyweds bowed respectfully. The copper-haired girl greeted Countess Artis. Those present began to whisper that the princess and Lady Olivia were talking. The aristocracy discussed that the girl's relationship was rather strained. Smiling, the copper-haired girl noted that His Majesty was unable to come to today's party. Olivia stared at the rings on the newlyweds' hands. She remembered that after receiving the message about the marriage of the Empire's first blade, His Majesty had given her the dragon's eye. The noblewoman was unhappy that her fiancé did not know that the jewel would return to the hands of an enemy prince. A murmur went through the hall when the guests learned that the newlyweds' rings were made from a dragon's eye. People were furious that the one-of-a-kind gem that was given away to the stricken empire UC dividends. The man was surprised that Lady Olivia was so straightforward. The culprit asked the people to stop discussing and wait. Smiling, the red-haired girl asked the prince what it was like to successfully win the heart of the princess and return the national treasure of her country. Smiling, the prince explained that Siren was betrothed to him and was part of his family. Smiling, the blonde explained that the dragon's eye still belonged to the girl. Ricardo explained that he could not imagine a greater honor on his part. After the guy's phrase, the room again began to buzz. Many whispered how the guy could say such a thing. Olivia wondered if the prince could really be engaged to her. The blonde explained that others usually showed affection for each other at the engagement ceremony. The siren explained that everyone had already seen the headline in the newspaper, and she could leave that part out. The culprit thanked everyone present for joining in their celebration. Serena wished everyone a pleasant evening and a safe journey home. The blonde quickly climbed the stairs with her betrothed. Moving away from Olivia, the guy could not hold back his laughter. The siren asked the prince why he was laughing. The boy explained that he liked how his bride stood up for him. The countess noticed that every little thing made the boy happy. Ricardo explained that he was sure that he would never forget the upcoming ceremony. The newlyweds stood and watched as the setting sun's rays painted the sky in all the colors of the rainbow. Serena gently hugged the guy around the waist. The girl slammed the table in anger, complaining about the damn aristocratic circle. Trembling all over, the blonde explained that they had happily taken the dragon's heart, and yet had refused to sanction her engagement. The stone table couldn't withstand the blow and cracked into small pieces. The girl's hands were in some kind of liquid. Eric reassured his friend that this was already significant. The blonde explained that they still didn't approve of his marriage, despite the fact that he got engaged last year. The guy calmly sat down on the sofa, putting the cup on the tray. Serena noticed that her comrade did not insist on this, since he did not particularly want to get married. The blonde noticed that despite being the emperor, Eric didn't seem to care much about state affairs. The girl asked her friend how he had time to hang around doing nothing. Eric thoughtfully handed his girlfriend a napkin, as she had wasted her mug of tea. The girl thanked him for his concern. The blonde explained that his life was not all about work. Serena sighed heavily and noted that he was incorrigible. The blonde admitted that she trusted Duke Zenith, and he repaid her for saving her at the party by stabbing her in the back. The girl began to scratch her back nervously. The blonde would reassure his friend that it was difficult for Duke Zenith to know everything alone. The boy explained that even he could not go against the aristocracy without thinking, despite the fact that he himself was an emperor. The blonde explained that enough pleasantries and called for an offensive. Eric asked his friend to make sure that the mess she made was small enough. The blonde promised that he would try to solve it later. The Duchess, breaking into a scream, asked her friend if he was joking. The girl explained that she had had enough and explained that it was time for her to leave. Serena took hold of the door handle, but the guy explained that Olivia wanted to talk to her. The girl stopped for a few moments. Looking at the guy, she asked why it was necessary. The blonde explained that his fiancée hadn't told him anything, and he had no idea. Eric explained that his fiancée had simply asked him to tell her. The Countess paused, wondering what Olivia wanted from her. The girl joked that her friend was at the full disposal of the future empress. The guy decided to make it clear that the blonde was the one who refused that title. The blonde looked at his friend with a smile. Frowning, the Countess did not understand why Eric mentioned it now. Walking through her friend's palace, the girl assumed that the nobles were very angry that such a young and shameless girl like her had actually become a countess. Serena followed the guy and adjusted her luxurious hair. The girl was disappointed that this power did not allow her to do whatever she wanted. Smiling, Eric asked her what she thought about becoming empress. The blonde looked at her friend in surprise and stupefaction. Serena asked again. The guy asked her to think about it. The emperor explained that as his wife, Serena would have much more freedom to do as she pleased, and he promised to protect her from the responsibilities she wanted to avoid. Serena asked her friend to wait a second and asked again if he was serious. With a smile on his face, the guy nodded in agreement. Looking down, the girl explained that she was very young at the time. Sitting down on the sofa, Eric suggested doing it now. The blonde reminded them that they were both engaged. The guy knew perfectly well that his beloved always drew the line when the conversation reached this point. Eric realized that the girl was warning him not to go further. The Countess persistently asked what Lady Olivia had asked her to convey. With a heavy sigh, the blonde explained to his friend that his fiancée had invited the girl to drop in for tea with her future husband. The blonde froze, trying to figure out what was going on. Siren assumed that the copper-haired girl wanted to apologize for the weird pressure at their engagement party. The blonde tried to comprehend what could have happened. Olivia thanked her ladyship for taking the time to come. The girl hoped that the blonde would take seriously the confession she was about to make. Serena's hands began to tremble violently, and the girl almost spilled hot tea on herself. The Countess could not understand why the girl was so nervous. Raising her fan, Olivia explained that she wished to express her sympathy for Countess Arthas. The blonde remembered that there had always been some awkwardness between them. The girl was surprised that she would make such a sudden statement. The Countess realized that the girl was not serious. The blonde wondered what Olivia was really planning. Exhaling, the copper-haired girl explained that when she was a young debutante, taking her first timid steps into high society, she had deeply admired the blonde. Olivia assumed that all young noblewomen of that time probably felt the same way. The girl explained that all they were striving for was a good marriage and social prestige. Olivia noticed that the blonde was completely different. After all, she was the only girl who owned the count's status in her own right. Olivia explained that if anyone was to take the position of empress, it should be her. The girl noted that many expected Siren to bring changes to their country. The Countess stopped the girl's story. The blonde apologized for interrupting. The girl explained that she had a question. Olivia asked what the blonde was talking about. The Countess asked why she was asking her about it now. Pomraknev Ricardo suggested that it was because they were engaged. The blonde explained that if Lady Olivia got married, then Serena would start a family and stay in the empire. The guy explained that if she had intentions to establish herself as the Duchess of the Crovian Empire and achieve radical changes. Looking closely at the guy, Olivia noticed that her ladyship had a rather smart fiancé. Serena sighed heavily and apologized for not living up to her expectations. The blonde admitted that she was not so devoted to the nation. The Countess explained that she was very tired of killing and saving others. The Siren explained that she was now trying to save herself. Clutching her fan tightly, the girl explained that she understood the Countess. Olivia assumed that the blonde had been through a lot over the years. The brunette explained that if she ever changed her mind, she could always come to her. Leaving the palace, the girl admitted that it was quite unexpected. The countess explained that she had underestimated Olivia. Turning to her betrothed, Serena asked why he was in a bad mood. Ricardo explained that it saddened him to see someone who had caused nothing but hostility until today, selfishly demanding that she work for the good of the nobility and the empire. The guy explained that he couldn't be disappointed in Lady Serena. The blonde assumed that Ricardo had experienced something similar. The countess realized that Rico was fed up with such things. It was no surprise to the girl that the boy was so wound up. The siren noticed that Lady Olivia was being honest with her. 2 horses, evenly clicking their hooves, carried the newlyweds. The blonde noticed that she had placed expectations on her of her own free will. The countess explained that it was understandable that she had commented on the presence of an imperial jewel on the fingers of a foreign prince. The boy explained that it was true. The blonde man didn't like it when the nobles used Lady Siren in their games. Ricardo wondered if there was another way to keep the nobles in check. The prince suggested that his bride keep Olivia at a distance for a while. The guy suggested that she concentrate on playing a trick on the aristocrats. The blonde reminded them that they were the source of all the problems. Serena once again clarified his plan. The blonde asked where he got such ideas from. The girl realized that he wanted to let off steam. The countess asked again about the trick, specifying what the guy had come up with. The blonde said that before he came to the empire, he heard an intriguing rumor. Ricardo said that there was a casino in the empire that belonged to a society of aristocrats. The guy explained that the casino, at first glance, looked like a regular entertainment for tourists. Ricardo explained that the casino was a place where the nobility of the entire continent could relax and have fun. The guy said that there was one rule. Ricardo clarified that the imperial family was not allowed in. After thinking for a moment, Serena realized that she had been there before. The girl recalled that the ban was imposed under the pretext that a diplomatic incident could arise. The blonde remembered that this could happen if the imperial family used power in a place where there were many foreign guests. The siren warned the groom that targeting this place could be dangerous. The countess explained that the destruction of the playground, which the nobility had built long and painstakingly, would be a short-lived joy. The girl explained that this was not a battlefield where all problems could be solved by force alone. Siren warned that their counterattack would be proportional to theirs. The girl was worried that such an incident would adversely affect their relationship with their marriage. Smiling, Ricardo explained that he had not suggested attacking the casino by force. The girl asked her fiancé in surprise what he was planning to do. The blonde grinned and offered to take it away from them. The guy explained that he meant the dragon's heart. Ricardo whispered his plan in her ear. The countess realized that she was on her way to a career change. The Serena realized that she was on her way from the most powerful duchess in the world to a jewel thief. At the residence of Duke Zenith, the man explained that the girl's visit had surprised him greatly. The brunette asked what the girl wanted to discuss with him. The Duke leaned elegantly on his luxurious cane. The blonde explained that she did not need any special reasons to meet her old friend. The siren reminded him that he had been to her ball. She explained that visiting guests was a common occurrence. The blonde mentally reminded herself that they had a completely different reason for their visit. Serena glanced at her betrothed. The countess asked the man if it was true that the dragon's heart, which she had given to the noble house, was in his possession. Zenith noted that this girl was well informed as always. The brunette shared that he was asked to keep an eye on the safety of the gem. Siren expected to hear this answer. The girl was sure that the gem would be left to Marquise Tortona, and she mentioned that he represented a noble house. The prince assured that he had originally thought about it too. He considered it more correct to give the jewel to him. The count explained that everyone was sure that the girl would try to destroy the dragon's heart if it were kept in the marquise's place. The siren was surprised at how much the high society resembled a snake pit. The blonde was surprised to hear that the nobility was still afraid of her, despite the fact that they refused to approve the engagement. The girl's silhouette burst into blue flame. Rubbing her hands, Serena realized that no matter where the jewel was kept, she would grind it into powder anyway. Using his telepathy, the blonde reminded his betrothed that they were supposed to steal the jewel, not destroy it. The siren replied that she saw no difference. The countess heard some noise behind the door and became a little wary. The girl heard someone begging to put the pink diamond up for auction. The merchant explained that the jewel was not as good as the dragon's heart. The girl instantly realized that something was happening behind the door. Siren asked the guy if he heard it. After the affirmative answer, the girl realized that another pink diamond had appeared in the state. Zenith asked the Countess if something had happened. Smiling, Serena explained that they were enjoying the magnificent view from the window. The brunette explained that he would not have allowed anyone to treat him if he had known that she was coming. The girl asked if there was anyone else visiting him. Having answered affirmatively, the man explained that he doubted that the girl would be happy to see his guest. After Zenith opened the door, a thick cloud of cigarette smoke flew out onto the guests. All the aristocrats in the casino turned sharply to look at the new arrivals. Holding the cards in his hands, the man asked who had arrived to see them. Smiling, Marquise Toron was surprised to see Countess Artez. The brunette awkwardly assumed that the living room was a bit cramped for so many people. Covering most of his face with his cards, Taran apologized for his rudeness. The man explained that he wanted to greet the blonde properly. The head of the noble house explained that his old body was not able to stand up as easily as before. Zenith explained to the lady that the dragon's heart was in the very center. The girl proudly walked towards the recently donated statue. The siren took a huge red apple and asked her fiancé to step aside. With a light movement of her hand, the girl broke the glass that protected the precious statue. The man asked the Countess if she had gone crazy. The brunette warned that the girl could have hurt someone. The head of the noble house threw down his cards and rushed towards the statue, hoping that his piece of the dragon's heart was still intact. The blonde was surprised that the man had said 5 minutes ago that his health was failing him. The girl joked that it wasn't that hard for him to get up. Bursting into blue flames, the girl asked if the Marquise wanted to greet her properly. The blonde man threw down 3 cards. Ricardo reminded the bride that it was her turn. The guy was met with only silence in response. The blonde asked the girl if everything was okay with her. Serena's face was covered with a damp cloth. The Countess explained that she had not expected to meet old vipers from a noble house. The girl assured that she had managed to check the statue. Serena was glad that they had finally apologized for their ignorance. She realized that the nobles had done it under duress. The blonde was sure that she would be able to deal with the magical defense rather quickly. Ricardo noticed that the defense was quite advanced. He stated that the defense was far from his lady's powers. The girl asked if this prince thought the voice they had heard in the corridor earlier seemed familiar. Ricardo noted that it was most likely Baron Rotto. Not understanding who the guy was talking about, the blonde asked again. The guy asked her if she remembered that young man at Countess Fursha's literary evening. The siren asked her betrothed if he had spoken about that guy, who had tried to start a fight with him. The blonde explained that Rotto's words had taken him by surprise. Ricardo explained that even in his kingdom, pink diamonds were considered quite valuable, as they appeared extremely rarely. The girl noticed that the Baron had such a valuable gem, which was a surprise to her. The siren remembered that she had crushed the rarest of all stones. The prince said that according to rumors, Rotto had accumulated a huge debt due to gambling, which forced him to sell off almost all of his property. The blonde said that according to rumors, the pink diamond was the only thing the Baron had left. Ricardo assumed that he had come to the literary evening to take out a loan. Reading through the paper, the girl explained that the document stated that the Rotto pink diamond had been stolen a long time ago. The girl remembered that he had said in Zenith's estate that he wanted to put it up for auction. Serena was puzzled as to how one could trade something that had been stolen long ago. The blonde explained that there had been no theft. Ricardo explained that the gambler had used the pink diamond to take out another loan and later squandered all the money. The Countess began to understand why Rotto wanted to sell the jewel quickly and anonymously. The blonde explained that it seemed as if the stolen gem had appeared at auction. The prince gently threw a warm blanket over his bride's shoulders. The siren looked at the guy in bewilderment. The girl asked why he did it. Ricardo explained that her outfit seemed too light to him. The blonde was worried that his bride would be cold. The girl explained that she was perfectly fine, except for the absence of a heart. The Countess wondered if her betrothed really thought that the slightest cold would make her shiver. Having apologized, the blonde realized that the girl was much more resistant to the cold. Siren began to blame herself for such a cold answer. At such moments, the Countess thought that even a fake heart would be better than nothing at all. A plan appeared in the girl's head when she remembered about the real heart and the fake one. The blonde told Ricardo that she knew what they had to do. The girl suggested changing their plan a little. The Countess asked her lover to convince the Baron that he would be able to hand over the pink diamond. The siren asked her lover to bring the jewel to her. The girl suggested swapping the jewels. She did a clever trick with the card, which turned from burgundy to black under the sunlight. The casino was filled with noise. Looking at the huge room, the blonde realized that she had not been in this place for a long time. The girl noticed that the gambling place had become much more spectacular. Serena realized that if even nobles from neighboring kingdoms were flocking to this casino, it meant that the business was truly and simply flourishing. Smiling, the prince explained that he had not expected that his bride often visited such establishments. The blonde admitted that she had only been to a casino once in her life. The girl explained that she had been sent an invitation since Eric had appointed her as his assistant. Watching the Countess leave, everyone discussed how she had come to be with them. The girl was forbidden entry as an imperial landowner. The siren grabbed the guy's hand tightly. Smiling, the blonde noticed that her fiancé did not even dare to take her hand. Ricardo reminded the bride that they needed to get inside as soon as possible, because the auction was about to begin. With unwavering confidence and a predatory look, the Countess offered to do so. The auctioneer greeted the assembled. The girl presented the first lot of the evening, which was a real masterpiece. The auctioneer presented the painting as Lake Rotto. The girl imagined that it was a magnificent landscape by a famous artist from the central regions. The auctioneer explained that the starting price of the painting was 5,000 gold coins. Raising her number, the girl offered twice as much without hesitation. The auctioneer was surprised by such a quick increase in the bid. The siren wanted to take revenge on the aristocracy for the time they kept away from her. The girl planned to take every lot so that everyone would understand. The groom noticed that the girl's desire was in line with her ambitions. The auctioneer presented the jewel of the ruling dynasty of Triton. It was a magnificent emerald necklace. The lady offered 8,000 gold pieces. Ricardo explained to the bride that his arm was beginning to hurt. The guy asked the girl to lift his arm a little more gently. She apologized and explained that she could not control her strength. The girl explained that they had reached the main masterpiece of their auction. The auctioneer introduced that the last lot was one of 2 items on the entire continent. Ricardo realized that the girl was talking about the pink diamond. Smiling, the blonde responded positively, realizing that she finally had a real purpose for participating in the auction. The nobility began to whisper whether the dragon's heart or Baron Rotto's diamond was really for sale. Most knew that the jewel had been stolen. The prince glanced furtively at the brunette. The servant whispered in the man's ear that the gem was the same as the baron's. The gentleman assumed that Baron Rotto had managed to place the jewel at auction after all. The prince noticed that Zenith was not indifferent to this development of events. Sweetly stretching, Siren explained that he would quickly understand that it was they who helped the baron. The girl asked him what he thought the final price would be. The auctioneer drew the attention of those present to herself. The woman suggested that everyone might have questions about the authenticity of the rare item. The auctioneer explained that the best appraiser on the continent had come to them and would be able to confirm that the jewel was indeed a pink diamond. Having looked closely at the pink stone, the appraiser noticed that it was undoubtedly a diamond. The man hesitated greatly, examining the jewelry. The auctioneer asked the professional if there was a problem. The appraiser, looking at the jewel, realized that it was most likely a dragon's heart. The woman became very nervous as the appraiser stared at the stone for a long time. The auctioneer warned those present that the authentication would take longer than expected. Siren stood up and said that something was wrong. The girl explained that the jewelry was definitely in her jewelry box. The blonde asked if someone could explain it to her. The countess explained that the jewel was the very same dragon's heart that she had given to the noble house. Those present were horrified by such a statement. With a smile, the girl asked what the jewel was doing at the auction. It was the 3rd day of the auction. Serena noted that she did not expect the groom to actually do this. The girl carefully examined the diamond, which had previously belonged to Baron Rotto. Smiling, the prince explained that he was only following her orders. The boy explained that the baron said that it made no difference to him whether the gem was sold or crushed. Rotto's main goal was revenge on the noble house. The prince remembered that he had said that he had treated some low-ranking aristocrats with the same disdain. The blonde apologized to the prince for his behavior at the literary evening. Serena realized that the noble house had many more enemies than she expected. Looming over the blonde, the groom asked to tell him about the next steps of her plan. Siren said that first they needed to make the Baron's diamond look like a dragon's heart and swap it with the real one. The girl claimed that no one would be able to tell the jewels apart. The blonde explained that she would use her magic to cast an illusion on the Duke's residence until the auction was over. The girl realized that when the real dragon heart was put up for auction, it would look like the nobles were trying to sell the jewel the girl had given them. Serena planned for the Baron's diamond to be found in the possession of Duke Zenith. In his thoughts, the prince knew that everyone would think that the noble house had stolen the Rado diamond. The guy realized where this was going and waited for the nobility to be put in jail. Serena asked to let her do it. In the first days of the auction, the owner of the estate actually improved the protective magic in the Duke's estate after her visit. This gave the blonde a bit of a headache. Luckily for her, the girl was able to pass unnoticed. With one deft movement, she took the jewel in her hands. The girl realized that she hadn't even broken a sweat. Siren became alert when she heard a noise behind the door. The blonde quickly hid, and the dim light of the lantern could not catch her from the semi-darkness. The girl rejoiced that she managed to place the fake in the deer's forehead. The countess sighed with relief that the real dragon's heart was in her hands again. Serena did not understand what the maid was doing in the hall at such a late hour. The girl watched from behind a luxurious column as the maid removed the stone from the statue's forehead. The guards ordered to find the thief and search every corner. The guards realized that she could be anywhere. The blonde realized that the thief had put something in the statue. The countess realized that she had put a fake gem. Siren followed the girl with her eyes. The blonde understood that she had to be extremely careful since the castle was being searched. One of the guards asked the maid what she was doing in the corridor at such a late hour. The girl apologized and explained that she had gotten a little lost. The siren tried to understand who this maid was. The countess understood that because of that girl, the statue did not even contain a pink diamond, but a cheap fake. The blonde decided to cast another illusion spell on the decoration. The girl pulled off her plan with skill. The siren reassured herself that she had managed to get the dragon's heart. The countess realized that she would have to take a closer look at this maid later. The girl gave herself the order to begin implementing her plans for life. Standing up, Serena asked how they dared to put her gift up for auction. With a smile on his face, the blonde watched his bride and realized that the girl had a wonderful artistic talent. The auctioneer asked her ladyship to calm down and explained that the appraisal of the goods was not yet finished. The appraiser, dripping with cold sweat, mumbled something under his breath. The countess ordered the man to clearly state what he saw before him. Trembling all over, the blonde explained that the diamond was indeed Arinia's jewel. The appraiser declared to the entire hall that the jewel was the heart of a dragon. The aristocracy was horrified that the nobles had actually put Countess Artes's gift up for auction. The man asked where she was. He was furious that Siren was actually present at the auction. The man reminded her that he had ordered her never to be let in. Trembling all over, Duke Zenith stood up, leaning heavily on his cane. His faithful servant ran up to the man in an instant. Turning around, the prince noticed that Duke Zenith was leaving. The blonde boldly assumed that he wanted to check whether his jewel was really missing. The appraiser and auctioneer looked at the countess with stunned eyes. The girl's eyes were shining with rage. The man explained that he had remembered urgent matters and asked to leave. Someone noticed that the casino was about to collapse. Serena watched the cowards with a smirk. After bowing, the man introduced himself as Colton and explained that he was the manager of the establishment. The blonde brought his deepest changes. The manager explained that he was informed about what had happened and did not expect the scale of this tragedy. The girl waved him off and asked him to forget about it. Smiling, Serena promised that the noble house would be held accountable for its actions. The blonde realized that Zenith had not managed to go too far. The girl realized that she had to use the chance to force the aristocracy to approve of her marriage. The blonde suddenly felt something inside her, and her pupils narrowed. Siren remembered hearing the sound before, and realized she felt a heartbeat. Noticing his bride's confusion, the blonde asked Lady Serena what had happened. The girl explained that the heart did not belong to any one person. The siren explained that she had heard such a loud heartbeat, as if everyone was terribly nervous. The Duchess asked what was going on in that casino. The manager, shaking all over, replied in a trembling voice that he did not understand what the girl was talking about. Ricardo noticed that, judging by their reaction, they were hiding something. The blonde was surprised that her fiancé felt it too. Having answered affirmatively, the prince explained that he felt it too, but not as strongly. Ricardo claimed that the source was somewhere under his feet. The guy noticed that it was like an earthquake, just a very weak one. Siren frowned and assumed that there was definitely something in the basements. Walking down the hallway, the blonde noticed that with each step, the jolts were getting stronger. Colton assured her ladyship that there really was nothing there. The girl stopped near a luxurious home library. The blonde said that the tremors were coming from there. Ricardo asked the bride if she needed help. Pomraknev, the manager, explained that if she interfered in their affairs, he would not remain on the sidelines. The man warned that he would immediately call the guards. Siren, with one light movement of her hand, broke the bookcase into many small pieces of glass and wood. The blonde trembled violently when he saw the girl's true strength. Serena explained that she didn't mind fighting a couple of weak boys with no combat experience. The blonde, standing on the top step of the basement, announced that she intended to find out what was going on there. The girl slowly descended the gloomy steps. The stairs went down endlessly, and unlit torches hung next to them. Blue flames played on the cold brick walls. Ricardo noticed that the sound was getting louder. The girl frowned and noticed that they had not put up a soundproof barrier. The blonde claimed that she really hoped that it would justify such a long journey. The prince explained that while his bride was at the auction, he managed to overhear the conversations of the nobles. Ricardo explained that he didn't know the details, but those who visited the casino more than 10 times received a key that opened a certain road for them. The countess quickly realized that there was something in this mysterious, dark place that was only accessible to guests. Serena explained that this explained why she and Eric knew nothing. The blue flames were reflected eerily in the prince's eyes, emphasizing the blue of his eyes. The blonde wondered if the bride really believed that His Majesty knew nothing. Ricardo assumed that he could be pretending. The pair walked for a long time along the gloomy corridors. The guy assumed that he could be pretending. Soon the girl reached a huge wooden door with many locks. The oak door was reinforced with metal plates and bolts. The guy asked Milady if she was sure she wanted to know what was behind the door. The blonde noticed that in some of the mysterious dungeons, it seemed like hundreds of hearts were beating. Burning the door to the ground, the girl explained that she wanted to see what was there. Entering inside, the blonde was taken aback by the sight of a huge stadium with thousands of people. Serena was surprised to see the Colosseum. The girl was amazed that they even bothered to create an artificial sun with the help of magic. Looking down, Siren saw a huge, ferocious monster that 5 strong guys could barely hold back. The girl was surprised that the arena was a place for a bullfight. The countess wondered if such entertainment was really a thing of the distant past. Pointing his finger at the stage, the prince drew Serena's attention to the fighter pitted against the ferocious animal. A small girl stood trembling with fear with a giant red flag that was hung on a spear. Ricardo sighed heavily and noted that even people in the distant past had more morals. Tears were streaming from the little girl's eyes, and her legs were buckling with fear. The enraged animal rushed towards the little girl with fury. Losing her temper, Siren called those present crazy. The girl ordered this to be stopped immediately. The aristocracy looked at the newcomer in surprise. A noise went through the crowd because no one understood what Countess Artaise was doing in the Colosseum. Everyone was sure that the imperial family had no access to their secret place. The aristocracy was indignant at this, fussing greatly, and said that such entertainment was strictly classified. The manager asked everyone to calm down. The enraged bull was tired of trying to free himself. One of the ropes broke, and the enraged animal was approaching the girl trembling with fear. The countess realized that the noise of the crowd had greatly angered the animal. The siren realized that the animal would soon kill the child. The girl threw herself down without much hesitation. The blonde landed next to the little girl, raising a huge cloud of dust around herself. The siren asked the child if she was okay. The countess began to gently stroke the furious animal's face. The girl was very nervous because she had never worked with animals before. Siren tried her best to convey a message to the monster using her powers. The bull's red eyes turned sky blue. The huge bull, at the girl's command, lay down and began to tremble violently. The observers began to discuss whether the animal had always been so docile. The Countess extended her hand to the girl and asked if everything was okay. The little girl recoiled, fell to the ground, and began to tremble violently. The blonde looked at her hand, trying to figure out what was wrong. Running up to the bride, the guy asked if she was okay. The girl was surprised to see Ricardo in the arena. Serena explained that it was necessary to take the child to a safe place. The prince promised to take care of it while the girl sorted out everything else. The blonde assumed that the bride had a lot to discuss with the nobles. Serena fixed her messy hair and agreed with the guy's statements. The girl explained that she would have to start the discussion with a punch or two. Sitting down next to the crying girl, Ricardo handed her a napkin and asked if everything was okay. Taking the snow-white handkerchief, the little girl asked what would happen to her. Smiling, the prince asked the child not to worry and promised that she would be safe. The girl explained that she could not go alone. Pointing towards his bride, the boy asked the little girl not to worry and explained that his lady was extremely influential. Still crying, the girl explained that she was not talking about that. Catching Ricardo's puzzled look, the little girl explained that there were still children there. The girl's hands were shaking violently. Hearing this, Serena glanced sideways at the little girl. Having calmed down a bit, the girl explained that many children had been brought to this terrible place with her. Trying not to frighten the child, the blonde asked if she knew where her friends were. With a trembling hand, the little girl pointed to a huge cage with many silhouettes. The children were desperate and did not even try to escape, but simply sat, awaiting their fate. The little girl claimed that she had been told that if she passed the test, her father's huge debt would be cancelled. Serena, shaking all over, tried to convince herself that the imperial family had no idea about this place. It was hard for the blonde to imagine that someone was doing such horrific things. The girl asked where those damn nobles were who had organized this atrocity. Looking at the puzzled crowd, the girl explained that if they did not answer, she would tear off their heads. The little girl asked who this lady was. The girl noticed that the heroine was powerful and a little scary. Nodding at his chosen one, the guy explained that she was his savior. Serena's golden hair fluttered in a light artificial wind. The prince shared that the girl was in no hurry to reciprocate his feelings. After the child asked again, the boy explained that it didn't matter. The little girl, taking the boy by the hand, ran to a closed cage with many children. Ricardo was horrified by what was happening. The prince realized that the children had been kept in this hell for more than a couple of days. Blondina realized that the children were probably shaking with fear of death, without any hope of salvation. Ricardo's memories took him back to that terrible moment when they performed numerous experiments on him, ignoring his injuries and hellish pain. Noticing the guy's confusion, the little girl tugged at his sleeve, asking if he was okay. Leaning against the cage, another child asked his friend if he was still alive. The little boy explained that he had come to help his friend. The boy asked if his friend had really managed to defeat the bull. Shaking his head, Connie explained that he had been saved by a noblewoman. The boy promised that the girl would come very soon to free all the children. Approaching Zenith, the blonde asked if he knew about this arena. When the girl shook her head and asked if he really thought she would believe it, the prince explained that from above, it was impossible to notice every little thing from below. The man smiled and assumed that the countess shared the same opinion. Zenith explained that he was talking about what happened after the war ended. The man recalled that after the war, the blonde locked herself in a mansion and claimed that she no longer cared about the affairs of the empire. Zenith claimed that on the way to the arena, he heard that all the children had given written consent to participate in the fight with the bull. The man insisted that this did not give the girl the right to blame them. The prince explained that he supposedly knew that the girl was in the castle because of the dragon's heart. Siren, with fury in her eyes, assured that she didn't care about that stupid stone. The blonde asked the man not to make excuses and take responsibility for what he had done. The countess explained that she was deeply disappointed. Turning around, the girl headed to the place where the children were being held. The prince explained that the prisoners had been taken to a safe place. Ricardo wondered if the bride really wanted to leave everything like that. With a heavy sigh, the blonde explained that destroying the Colosseum would not solve the problem. The guy asked what his fiancé had discussed with the Duke. The girl clenched her fists and explained that she had killed many people in the war. Siren was sure that she would do more good if she did nothing. The blonde claimed to have realized that inaction had made her an idle witness to even greater suffering. The Countess explained that she did not know what to do. Turning to the groom, the girl asked why he was still with her. The siren reminded the guy that she had destroyed his country and people. The prince explained to Pomraknev that the lady had never been an idle witness. Ricardo explained that all this time the girl had been fighting alone for a good cause. Lifting the bride's face, the boy looked into her faded gray eyes. Ricardo explained that he wanted to be with her while she was next to him. The prince gently reached out to kiss the bride. Pushing his hand away, the girl explained that he had managed to deceive her for a few moments. Serena explained that she had been able to feel like a good person. The prince wondered if it was so hard to believe. Ricardo reminded the girl that she had saved the child, taken the time to listen to Lady Olivia, and stood up for Lady Laura. The blonde reminded that the heroine had saved him earlier. Smiling, the guy reminded the bride that she did everything for a good cause. Serena explained that she still didn't understand what he meant by some kind of rescue. The prince explained that thanks to her, he could finally do what he wanted and live freely outside the laboratory. The siren explained that the boy had to thank his own intelligence. The blonde asked her fiancé to send all the rescued children to her estate. The boy asked what she was going to do with them. Ricardo explained that there were many more small victims than he had originally expected. Smiling, the Countess explained that she was planning to throw a grand party for the children. There were many different sweets on the table. Smiling, Serena offered the rescued child to take whatever he wanted. The Countess explained that all this had been prepared especially for him by her head cook. The girl looked with admiration at the many different treats. The blonde created the impression that because she had not seen children for a long time, the rescued baby turned out to be quite cute. The little girl trembled as she looked at her savior. Connie still saw the girl as a monster. Very embarrassed, the little girl explained that she really didn't need anything. Serena asked the little girl what the point of this excessive politeness was. Clutching the hem of her dress tightly, the little girl explained that she was very afraid of getting the table dirty. Connie timidly explained that she and her family did not have the money to compensate. The Countess was surprised that all the other children agreed to stay on her estate, but the girl she saved still insisted that she wanted to return home. Serena realized that the little girl could not be persuaded by food. The girl realized that she would have to speak directly to Connie. The Countess explained that she had heard that the girl's younger brother was ill. Clutching tightly at the hem of her dress, the little girl explained that this was why her family needed the money. The girl had already learned that her savior had given her family the amount they were supposed to receive after the fight with the bull. Connie insisted that if the problem was fixed, she wanted to go home. The blonde explained to the little girl that this was impossible and was her order. Serena asked the girl if she really wanted to go back to the people who sold her to pay for her second child's treatment. Tears welled up on Connie's face. Extending a helping hand, the Countess asked why the little girl and her brother shouldn't stay with her. The blonde suggested that the girl consider it a favor, for which she could pay much later. Connie asked if she could consider the offer. Having answered positively, the blonde offered the little girl to eat dessert. Serena suggested that the girl take it with her. The little girl had already managed to hide several treats because she had not eaten properly for a long time. The girl hesitantly tried a small piece of cake. Connie had tears in her eyes. She assured that it was very tasty. Smiling, the Countess explained that she wanted the girl to help a child like herself in the future. Siren explained that the baby could think about it in her estate until she grew up. With tears of happiness in her eyes, the girl thanked her savior. Rico told his fiancé that she was fighting for a good cause, but in reality, the girl was only looking for a piece of humanity in her heartless body. The blonde was glad that some of her actions actually helped others achieve a bright future. Thanks to the prince's reasoning, Serena realized that this wasn't such a bad way to live until she became a normal person. A small lotus petal fell into an elegant tea mug. The petal's slight touch sent ripples through the tea. After taking a sip of strong drink, Zenith listened to Eric. The blonde was furious that the Countess was able to turn the casino and the arena upside down. With a heavy sigh, the brunette explained that he had understood everything correctly. Eric asked how his ex-girlfriend had found out about the secret place. The blonde reminded them that they had managed to keep the girl in the dark the entire time. Zenith assumed that Prince Ricardo knew about the bullfighting arena. The blonde man noted that it was very suspicious that the girl was present during the Dragonheart incident, and then suddenly found out about the arena right after that. The blonde was carefully reading some documents. Eric noticed that such coincidences were not enough to draw any conclusions. The guy asked the brunette to simply watch Serena. The man bowed and accepted His Highness's order. Zenith asked the gentleman what to do with their marriage. The blonde sighed heavily and explained that, with the current state of affairs, all they had to do was appease the Countess's anger by approving the marriage. Bowing, the man apologized to His Highness. The blonde explained that it wasn't his fault. His Highness suggested that it was all taking too long. Eric explained that even without the arena incident, they would have had to approve their marriage around this time. The blonde explained that he still saw one problem. The events are transferred several months back to the banquet in honor of Prince Ricardo's welcome. The blonde was very wary of the conversations as he sipped wine. The girls gathered in around the prince with delight, wondering if he really was the Countess's partner for the first dance. Smiling, Ricardo assured her that she had done him an honor. The girls looked at the handsome man with loving eyes. Eric was very wary that the Prince of Arinia had gone out onto the balcony with Serena and returned alone. The blonde man tensed up. What were the two discussing, considering the satisfied look of the guy? Grinning, Eric realized that his rival was just the prince of a ruined kingdom. Bowing, the foreign prince greeted His Highness. Smiling, Eric explained to the boy that he was the only one who had the honor of dancing with the first sword of the Empire. Don't count him. His Highness explained that such an opportunity does not come twice and asked to appreciate the girl. Bowing, Ricardo thanked His Highness. The blonde assured that from that moment on, he would be given a much greater honor. Eric, approaching this guy, suggested that time would tell how long he would be so confident. The blonde realized that he had greatly underestimated the guy. Covering half of his face with his hand, His Highness explained that she had not expected their union to last so long. With surprise on her face, Serena read the response from the noble house. The girl said that they not only approved of their marriage, but also promised to return the dragon's heart. Rico was peeling a bright red apple for his beloved. The Countess sat comfortably on her chosen one's lap. The blonde explained that they had sorted that out, and it was time to go in search of her heart. Handing the girl a piece of sweet fruit, the prince explained that they should first hold a wedding. Serena sighed heavily, realizing that he was right. The prince asked his bride solicitously if she wanted to rest. Ricardo reminded her that they had been busy with the children since returning from the arena. After taking a bite of the apple, the girl explained that she was trying to convince a very stubborn child. The blonde noted that his chosen one made that child happy. Serena stood up and asked him to stop flattering her, and explained that she didn't love children that much. The girl shared that she planned to find a separate place for the children with someone who could look after them. The blonde was sure that at least one of them would repay her in kind. The prince explained that he himself had come to the girl to repay her. The siren asked the groom what kind of nonsense he was talking. The guy was indignant that he did not consider it nonsense. The Countess explained that he had a blank look in his eyes when he spoke of this. Serena noted that for a moment she thought he was in love with her. The prince noticed that the girl was too perceptive. The Countess asked if the boy had heard the heartbeat. The girl laughed and asked him not to tell her that there was also a bullfighting arena hidden in the cellars of her estate. Ricardo did not understand why his heart was beating so wildly. Noticing the guy's reaction, Siren asked if it was his heart she had heard. Jumping up abruptly, the blonde explained that it was time for him to return to the imperial palace. The girl was taken aback by such a sudden statement. Ricardo explained that it would be bad manners on his part to stay so long in her residence. The blonde was going to leave and came up with another excuse not to admit that he was really in love with her. The siren abruptly grabbed the groom by the hand and pushed him onto the soft blanket. The blonde reminded him that they had finally received approval for the marriage. Looming over him, the girl asked why he didn't stay and live in her estate. Ricardo's heart began to pound even harder. The girl asked him to just stay with her. The Countess reminded him that he was already living in the guest room. The Serena asked the groom if he wanted to stay. The prince coldly replied that he did not want to. The girl assured him that it was up to him to decide where he wanted to live. Serena explained that she was not going to pressure him. The blonde asked the guy when he was going to leave. The prince assumed that the girl had misunderstood him. Ricardo adjusted his collar and explained that he didn't just want to stay with her for a while, but wanted to live with her forever. After a brief moment of stupefaction, Serena laughed. The guy asked her in bewilderment what made her laugh. The blonde explained that she was just teasing him, and she couldn't help but laugh at his charming reaction. Sadness appeared on the prince's face. The guy was disappointed because he would actually be happy to share a bedroom with her, at least after the engagement. The siren asked the groom not to sulk and lie down next to her. The blonde obediently lay down next to his beloved. The countess noticed that the air smelled of autumn. The girl relaxedly watched the gray autumn clouds quickly running across the sky. Serena remembered that they met in the spring and was surprised how quickly time flew. The guy asked if she wanted to lay her head on his hand. The blonde answered positively and lay down on the guy's shoulder. The siren asked if he would mind if she took a nap. The guy promised his bride to wake her up. The countess was surprised at how comfortable she was. Smiling, Serena explained that she couldn't remember the last time she had been so carefree. The girl carefully tucked her golden hair behind her ear. The countess fell asleep quite quickly on her fiancé's arm. A tree leaf landed gently on the girl's face. The brunette woke up in her native dimension. The girl opened her eyes and found herself lying on her friend's lap. She was reading a book. Siren stood up abruptly and stretched. The girl reported that she had had a wonderful nap. The friend explained that she had been waiting for a long time for the girl to finally wake up. The brunette informed Serena that the lunch break was almost over. The brunette noticed that Hee-yeon's legs were the best pillow. The siren asked what their next lesson would be. The girl with black hair laughed and said that the next lesson would be math with an old teacher. Hee-yeon noticed that her friend spoke as if she was going to sleep the whole lesson. Stretching, Serena explained that she had already slept through the entire break. The brunette asked her friend if she really thought that she would feel sleepy again. Serena explained that she felt a little sick from the pork cutlet. Having looked at the girls, the footballer asked his friend if she was the chairman's niece. The brunette explained that Hee-young was untouchable, and even teachers tried not to mess with the girl. The boys couldn't understand why the powerful girl always spent time with a lazy girl like Serena. Hugging her friend, the brunette explained that they should hurry up if they didn't want to be late for class. Everyone looked towards Serena and laughed. The brunette fell asleep. Don't pay attention to the noise. Hee-yeon expected that her friend would be filmed in class. The brunette shouted to her friend to get up quickly. A stern teacher in glasses loomed over the girl, looking at her disapprovingly. Jumping up abruptly, Serena insisted that she had listened to Sir. The teacher explained that he had thought that she was planning to go to college. The man asked if sleeping in class would help the brunette achieve this. After fixing her hair, Serena apologized for her behavior. A classmate with long, black, and thick hair asked her friend why the girl always slept during classes. The blonde sighed heavily and explained that she worked part-time as a delivery girl at night. According to rumors, after the girl's parents died, her uncle took everything they left behind, so the girl didn't have a penny. The teacher asked the children to be quiet. The man ordered everyone to do their own work. The teacher asked if they really wanted him to continue the lesson. Clutching the ruler tightly in his hands, the brunette reminded Serena that this also concerned her. The teacher explained that her situation did not justify her behavior and asked the girl to pull herself together. Hee-yeon clutched the hem of her dress tightly, realizing that this was how children without parents were always treated. The brunette was upset that teachers always turned a blind eye to her being distracted in class. The girl did not understand why they could not treat her friend the same way. Standing up, Serena explained that it was not entirely her fault that being an orphan had made her uneducated. Smiling creepily, the brunette asked her classmates why they were silent. The girl assumed that they knew much more about her family than she did. Those who had condemned her a few moments ago quickly shut up and looked at the girls. The brunette dreamed of living her next life as Hee-yeon. The girl's friend was born into wealth and had the opportunity to help others. Serena realized that she had failed to save her that day. The countess dreamed of having another equally wonderful friend. Looking around, the girl wondered if there was anyone in this world who would treat her so sincerely. The blonde watched Ricardo peacefully sleeping. The girl did not understand when her fiancé had managed to doze off. Serena remembered that he had promised to wake her up. The blonde covered the guy with trepidation so that he wouldn't get cold. The girl promised herself that if they stayed together, even after she got her heart back, they would become friends. The boy opened his blue eyes slightly at Siren's monologue. The blonde asked if he had already returned to the palace. The guy explained that he thought it was not worth disturbing his bride. With a smile on his face, the guy reminded that they finally got the engagement approved after they sorted out the arena. Ricardo suggested that the bride take a couple of days off. The guy looked at her with a smile. When the blonde entered the carriage, he realized how much he was afraid that his beloved would figure out his sincere feelings. When the girl said her monologue after the phrase to remain friends, tears rolled down the guy's eyes. The siren could only say all this because the guy was asleep and did not hear her. The girl admitted that she always wanted to have a friend like Ricardo. The prince reassured himself that his beloved herself had said that she would be glad if he stayed. Bowing deeply, the gray-haired courtier reported to Her Highness that the emperor wished to speak with her personally. The girl's eyes widened sharply, and she asked why Eric had called her. The prince became very wary upon hearing this news. The blonde was very worried about his beloved, because he suspected that the Colosseum belonged to Eric. With a smile on her face, Siren said that she needed to prepare for a visit to the palace. The emperor sat, talking with high-ranking people. The blonde was surprised at how long she had to wait. The siren remembered that the blonde himself invited her. Zenith informed Countess Artes that His Majesty was waiting for her. The blonde rolled her eyes and said that this was wonderful news. Eric waved at the girl with a smile on his face. Frowning, Serena asked why such a nobleman needed her. Trying to calm the girl's indignation, the blonde suggested that she had much more to do. The siren noticed that the guy was right. The girl said that the last few days had been eventful. The countess told about her wedding preparations and the incident at the casino. Coming close to the guy, Serena asked him to tell the truth. The girl assumed that the blonde also knew about the casino and the arena. Laughing, Eric reminded him that he was the emperor. The guy assured him that he had eyes and ears everywhere. The blonde sternly asked him why he had not stopped the atrocities. The emperor explained that the arena was visited by representatives of the aristocracy of different nations. The guy explained that they couldn't find anyone who could volunteer to participate. Eric reminded them that all the victims had signed consent forms to participate, and so they would have a hard time in court. Smiling, the emperor explained that he thought he could pay them such large reparations. The girl abruptly interrupted her former friend. The siren reminded him that he hadn't said a word about children. The blonde asked if the girl was disappointed by that. Without hesitation, the girl answered positively. The countess asked if he had really called her for this conversation. The siren explained that they had nothing to talk about. The emperor grabbed the girl by the shoulder and asked her to stop. His amber eyes were glowing. Turning around, the girl asked if he had really gone mad. Eric explained that the prince from Arinia had long known about the arena and had deliberately brought her there. The blonde explained that he hadn't bothered the girl before because he thought she would quickly tire of that affectionate trickster. Eric explained that he would have to change the girl's tactics. The countess asked him again what he had said a few moments ago. The blonde explained that he had not asked to be loved, but had asked to be judged by the same standards as a foreign prince. Serena abruptly pushed the guy's hand away, explaining that she didn't know what had come over him. The girl explained that she had never considered her old acquaintance to be the same as Ricardo. The blonde said that if she ever fell in love, it would definitely not be with him. The girl impulsively slammed the door behind her, leaving the emperor completely bewildered. Serena was disappointed that she came to the imperial palace just for this. The girl saw another pair of shoes in her field of vision. Her fiancé stood in front of the countess. The girl was confused about what the prince was doing in the imperial palace. Serena worriedly asked what had happened. The girl asked if he wanted to tell her something. The blonde noticed that when she arrived at the imperial palace, the first thing she did was run to look for His Majesty, not her fiancé. The guy asked why his beloved did that. The countess explained that every state had its own rules. She took into account that he was a prince, so he probably knew about it better than others. Rico asked how long she had been observing the rules of etiquette. The blonde asked him hotly what had come over him. The guy remembered perfectly well that the girl had told him not to fall in love with her. the prince hesitated whether he should tell her how he really felt. Ricardo was unsure if he could ask her to look only at him. He sighed heavily and explained that he himself hadn't known, that he was a little angry today. The girl turned Erica's words over in her head. The Countess couldn't understand why Ricardo hadn't told her about it earlier. The blonde understood that there had to be a reason for that. Frowning, Siren asked her fiancé how he knew about her location. The prince explained that he had met Duke Zenith in the corridor, and he had told him. The girl chuckled and assumed that the Duke wanted to make the guy jealous. Ricardo explained that, whatever the case, if her conversation with Her Majesty had come to an end, it was time for the girl to go home. The Countess, hesitating a little, explained that she needed to stop somewhere. Sunbeams playfully ran across the ceiling. Bowing, the maid placed another cup of tea on the table. Serena couldn't take her eyes off the maid and followed her with her eyes until she disappeared around the corner. Olivia said that the Countess' visit was extremely unexpected for her. The girl took a small sip of tea. The blonde explained that she needed to discuss something with the lady. The copper-haired girl explained that she had a hard time imagining what the conversation would be about. Siren warned that her answer would remain the same, and that she had no intention of dedicating herself to this empire. Olivia replied that it was a pity. She was almost touched that the girl had left her kitten to see her. The future empress thoughtfully noticed that the prince looked more like a fox. The guy was huddled in his room, upset. After all, he had hoped that his bride's next stop would be his chambers. Siren assumed that her interlocutor had probably heard rumors about children in the bullfighting arena. Narrowing her eyes, the lady noticed that the blonde was saying that she was only interested in her own life. Olivia explained that she had been sure that the girl, like other aristocrats, would be indifferent to their position. The Countess snorted with displeasure that she had once had such an attitude towards everything. The girl reported that all the rescued children were in her residence. Serena explained that she could have solved that problem herself. The blonde explained that this would not give her a guarantee that other children would not end up in a similar situation in the future. Olivia wondered if the girl really wanted to share the responsibility with her. The future empress wondered why Her Highness had decided to share such responsibility with her. The copper-haired girl noted that the Countess could turn to His Majesty or find a solution together with her chosen one. Smiling, Serena explained that Eric had no desire to help her, and Ricardo was still the prince of other lands. The blonde asked the future empress if she should be interested in the life of this state. The siren reminded the girl that she was the future empress. The blonde explained that she was capable of gaining much more influence in high society than anyone else. The siren explained that it was because of this great influence that she asked her for help. The girl asked her friend if she had received an invitation. The blonde shared that without such meetings, it was impossible to get into high society. The dark-haired girl said that she was lucky enough to attend the previous one, and she shared that no one could be better suited for the role of the empress than Olivia. The imperial family and the nobles of Croviania could not turn a blind eye to the exploitation of children in the arena. The girls commented that Olivia's speech was magnificent. The future empress planned to open a charity auction for the children who suffered. Dressed in nondescript clothes, Serena listened attentively to the conversations. With a smile on her face, Serena noted that the public reaction was much warmer than expected. The blonde explained that she was sure she had made the right choice when she came to the future empress. Olivia noticed that the girl flattered her greatly. The future empress explained that she was simply taking advantage of the opportunity. Olivia noted that the blonde had previously claimed that she was not interested in the politics of her state. The copper-haired girl said that Siren had finally joined her in the fight to fix the Blood Empire. Smiling, the Countess explained that there was some truth in those words. The blonde reminded her that she was waiting for her to become empress and teach those scoundrels a good lesson. Serena had a confident smile on her face. Looking around, Olivia assumed that they had not been found out. The blonde explained that she had not become the first woman with the title of Count for nothing. The Countess recalled that there had been rumors of their bad relations. No one had expected them to go for walks together. The blonde saw a beautiful apple, the blood flower. Approaching the counter, the blonde asked how much the apple cost. The seller explained that one apple cost 5 silver coins. Serena tried to haggle and offered 3 silver coins. The salesman asked the girl if she knew how much the prices had increased recently. Soon the blonde was walking with an apple in her hand. Olivia expressed surprise at what kind of person her new friend was. Smiling, the Countess asked if the girl was surprised that she was bargaining with street vendors while being a countess. With a heavy sigh, Olivia explained that she had often wondered what it would be like to walk freely along a path that no one had ever set foot on before. The future empress assumed that the girl had often encountered similar situations. The siren admitted that she had never thought about the fact that she was stepping onto untrodden paths. The blonde shared that people here had never experienced what used to be her everyday life. The girl noted that, because of this, Olivia was fighting a much harder war than she was. The siren explained to the copper-haired girl that she wanted to talk about the deer statue she had given to the noble house. The blonde remarked that swapping the diamond for a cheap ruby was a great idea. Serena explained that her new friend had taught her this trick. With feigned incomprehension, Olivia asked what the blonde was talking about. The Countess explained that she had been trying to find out who had sent the spy to replace the stone, but things were going badly. The Countess explained that when she arrived at the girl's mansion, she met a familiar face. Looking down, the future empress asked how the girl had managed to find out. Olivia, very nervous, asked again what she was going to do to her. The blonde replied in the negative, explaining that the Duke was convinced that she had done it. The copper-haired girl hesitated a little and asked if that was a problem. Serena replied that she didn't care at all, since only Duke Zenith had expressed suspicion. The blonde explained that she was more concerned about why she stole the dragon's heart. Olivia explained to her friend that her motivation was similar to hers. The girl admitted that she also wanted to use it for blackmail purposes. The future empress explained that she planned to weaken the position of the nobles by creating a scandal among them. Holding out her hand, the blonde explained that if she had gotten to know the girl better earlier, she would have invited her to dance at her engagement party. Taking Olivia by the hand, the Countess asked if Her Grace would like to do her the honor next time. The future empress explained that she would look forward to the day when they would dance. The girls continued their walk holding hands. The Countess entered her palace. With a bow, the servants noticed that the girl had returned quite late. Serena reported that her conversation with Lady Olivia had dragged on for a while. The blonde admitted that she hadn't spoken to someone with a similar mindset in a long time. The girl assumed that this was the reason she lost track of time. The lady asked what had happened in her absence. The butler became very nervous and announced that guests had arrived whom they had not expected to see. The butler introduced His Majesty the Emperor and Prince Ricardo. The guys were waiting for the girl in one room. Serena suspected that these two were in cahoots. Eric asked the girl to make her choice between him and the foreign prince from the doorway. Smiling, the foreigner explained that he was the lady's fiancé and the prince. After this statement, the emperor's face twisted with anger. The blonde wondered for what purpose she was trying to make a choice. Ricardo offered the bride to choose who she wanted to spend time with. The rival's face twisted, and anger shone in his eyes. The blonde thoughtfully explained that if she had to choose, she would choose the maid. The maid, not believing her ears, asked again. The lady noticed that the brunette's working day had been greatly delayed due to the two stubborn men staying too long in her palace. Eric asked in surprise what his former friend had been talking about. The Countess explained that if it was not urgent, they could talk tomorrow. The girl said that she was going to bed. The blonde man asked angrily how the Duchess could be so careless towards her emperor. The siren asked how the emperor could wait so long for the Duchess. The blonde asked Eric if he really had nothing to do. The blonde was hurt to the heart by these words. He sighed heavily and noticed that the girl was unbearable. Trying to get the prince's support, Eric lightly pushed him on the shoulder. Ricardo informed him that his body belonged to Serena, and therefore he could not allow strangers to touch him so shamelessly. Blue eyes pierced the emperor. The blonde explained that if he wanted to tell him something, he should do it in the imperial palace. Eric recalled that on the evening of the banquet, he said that he was ready to do a lot for Serena. The emperor asked the blonde if this was still in effect. Ricardo explained that he would answer this question tomorrow. Smiling, the prince reminded the boy that Lady Serena would be dining with him, not with His Majesty. A furious whistle and the blows of metal swords resounded across the training field. Ricardo dexterously dodged the bride's blow. Stepping aside a little, the blonde asked his bride not to limit herself, using only one hand. The girl's left hand was firmly clenched behind her back. The blonde instantly soared into the air. The prince was a little taken aback, trying to find his rival with his eyes. Ricardo realized that his sparring partner was somewhere above his head. A trail of blue flames hid the blonde from prying eyes. Ricardo noticed only the charred glove that he had taken for his bride a moment ago. The blonde asked where his betrothed was. A graceful hand suddenly fell on the prince's shoulder, causing a cold sweat to appear on the boy's face. With a smile on her face, Siren explained that she was behind him. The girl explained to Rico that he had lost and pointed to his melted sword. The prince assumed that his weapon had been melted by the blue flames. With a welcoming smile, Siren suggested that they end the training. The countess explained that she did not want to hurt her fiancé again. The girl asked Ricardo what he wanted yesterday. The blonde asked if there was any reason to come. Smiling, the prince assured that engaged couples often saw each other for no reason. Serena quickly realized that he wanted to put their relationship on display. The girl reminded him that their wedding would take place very soon and suggested that they prepare well for such an important event. Gently running her hand over the guy's cheek, the blonde explained that she really liked admiring his face. Ricardo was puzzled why the bride behaved like that. Hope shone in her blue eyes that Lady Serena felt the same as he did. Hovering over the boy, the countess asked if he knew about the arena from the very beginning. The blonde asked how he, being the prince of other lands, was able to find out this, if she herself did not even suspect it. Serena asked her fiancé why he didn't tell her about it right away. With a heavy sigh, the blonde admitted that he knew about it even before he met his bride. Eric wondered what the lovers were talking about as they pressed themselves so tightly against each other. A huge bird flew over the blonde and landed on his hand. The emperor asked his pet how he knew where he was. Sharp claws almost dug into the black sleeve of the cape. Eric was surprised that the bird brought him a note from Queen Irina. Serena quickly stopped talking when she heard footsteps behind her. Turning around, the girl saw Eric and asked what he was doing. The blonde explained that he had come up to her without any particular reason. The emperor said that he was curious about what the lovers were talking about so excitingly. Eric clutched the letter tightly behind his back. The countess snapped back that there was nothing interesting enough to follow them. The blonde replied coldly that they had not finished their conversation yet. The girl quickly walked in the other direction. Turning around, the guy tried to comprehend what the newlyweds had planned. Finally, the prince cast his piercing gaze at his enemy. Ricardo sat at the table with his beloved. The 5-meter tabletop distanced the prince from the blonde. There were candlesticks and fresh flowers on the luxurious white tablecloth. The siren explained to the groom that he was not obliged to have dinner with her, only for the sake of spending time together. The blonde said that he understood this perfectly well. Wiping her mouth with a napkin, the countess suggested drawing a line in their conversation. The girl asked how exactly Ricardo's past was connected to the arena. The prince asked again if he had told her about the horrific experiments that had been performed on him as a child. The blonde explained that she remembered that part of his story and asked him to continue telling it. The boy shared that Rita Arena was his adoptive mother and current queen. He explained that the stepmother brought those children to their kingdom and injected them with his blood. The queen hoped that in this way they would be able to obtain the dragon's power. Ricardo explained that a lot of time had passed since then. The prince claimed that he had not expected that the arena was still in working order. Clenching her fist tightly, the girl assured him that if she had known about this earlier, she would never have asked him to transport the rescued children. The girl assumed that this must have caused her fiancé to plunge into painful memories. The blonde wondered why he hadn't told her about it before. Ricardo explained that he didn't want her to interrogate him about how he knew this. He assumed that it made it much easier for her to focus on the case. The prince explained that he didn't want to get in her way. The siren shared that she was still worried about the emperor. The blonde asked how Eric knew about the guy's secrets. Looking closely at the letter, His Majesty tried to understand whether the letter was really from the queen. Bowing, the butler explained that the authenticity had been confirmed by the magic tower. Rereading the letter once again, Eric noticed that the queen was initially against the marriage between Siren and the prince. The blonde remembered that the woman gave him information about the arena. The emperor was surprised that the woman said she would approve of this marriage. Eric could not understand what the queen of the defeated state was planning and realized that he would have to act alone. The siren turned around sharply, as if she felt someone's gaze on her. The blonde asked his beloved what had happened. The girl answered that nothing but a bad feeling was swaying in her soul. Ricardo explained that it was time for him to leave. The prince was disappointed that his bride had not even bothered to say goodbye to him. The blonde asked if she was so disappointed that he hadn't told her about it earlier. The countess was a little disappointed because she thought she knew Rico better than anyone else in this rotten empire. The blonde shared her secret with him, but it still did not guarantee a similar gesture from him. Turning to the guy, the blonde explained that she did not want him to experience all this alone. Serena explained that although their relationship had started with pretense, they were now partners with a common goal. The blonde's face flushed for a few moments, and a small smile appeared. Ricardo heard the loud clatter of hooves and asked what kind of carriage was approaching her mansion. 4 black horses rhythmically clattered their hooves. Ricardo was surprised and asked if she was expecting any guests other than him and the emperor. Frowning, the countess explained that she herself had not known about the new guests. One of the butlers came out looking around. 3 servants of the unknown guest greeted her ladyship. The girl sternly asked if they had been given permission to enter. The man explained that he was the steward of the Duke of Zenith. The man said that he had come to deliver a letter from a man. Serena, visibly gloomy, asked what their master wanted. They began a long introduction. The blonde snapped, asking to speak to the point. The man explained that the gentleman had apologized for his rudeness and was holding a banquet in honor of the countess. Zenith wrote that he hoped very much that the girl would attend the banquet out of friendly feelings for her old friend. Serena was surprised that he would say something about friendly feelings after what had happened. The siren explained without even listening to the end that she did not intend to visit anything. The blonde explained that he could return to the owner and convey her refusal. The countess explained that she did not need an apology from him. As he rolled the scroll back up, the man explained that he was very sorry to hear such news. Stewart explained that many famous figures from the empire would be at the event, including the future empress. Turning around, the countess asked if Olivia was the subject. Hearing a positive answer, the girl explained that she was ready to go. Serena said that she would begin preparing for the event in the near future. A luxurious carriage pulled up to the mansion. The countess's light hair was emphasized by a luxurious black dress. The girl's hairdo featured many flowers, the colors of the sun. The siren hoped to have a conversation with the future empress. Unfortunately, the girl was stuck between 2 fires. The castle footman stopped and explained to her ladyship that they had already arrived. The boys unanimously asked why each of them always went with them, and the emperor quarreled everywhere because of Siren. The blonde claimed that she was very cramped. The girl noticed that the guys did not let her enjoy the wonderful trip. Extending his hand, Eric asked the lady not to stumble and to hold his hand. Smiling, the prince asked her to rely on him, because only he could withstand her power. The blonde was confused by such unexpected proposals. Watching, the girls guessed who her highness would choose, her fiancé or the emperor. The siren ordered the guys to remove their hands. Having stepped onto the ground, the girl explained that she was not a child and could walk by herself. The blonde said that she had already arranged to accompany someone and said that she would go inside. The countess said that the boys had better enter one by one. The siren emphasized that the ballroom could not withstand such noise. The boys were very nervous that they had another rival. After kissing the girl's hand, Siren invited her to dance. Smiling, the copper-haired girl remarked that she was glad to see her friend again. Olivia noticed that she had not noticed His Majesty and Prince Ricardo at the ball. The future empress explained that she had heard that the boys had arrived with the blonde. Serena explained that she told the guys to come a little later because she was going to accompany her friend. The countess explained that nothing good would happen if they were spotted together. The blonde explained that otherwise too many eyes would be on them. As Olivia danced with the girl, she noticed that her ladyship was acting very thoughtfully. The siren was very pleased, because no one had ever spoken about her like that. The countess explained that if she had the chance, she would like to ask something. The blonde knew that it was not the best question for the situation. The countess asked Olivia if she loved Eric. The future empress explained that since His Majesty were only partners in a political marriage, Olivia insisted that their relationship was based on money and power, like all other nobles. The copper-haired girl explained that she had postponed the wedding so as not to get too close and to calmly use each other for political purposes. The future empress explained that through the power of attorney, The emperor could count on the support of her family, while she would gain great power as his bride. Smiling, Olivia explained that this was what gave her the opportunity to dance this dance with the lady. The blonde noticed that their relationships with their suitors were quite similar and more like friendship. The girl explained that no matter what the nobles said, the main thing was not to let them fool her. The future empress decided to take the opportunity to ask a question too. Olivia asked the blonde if she had a dear person. The countess asked again in surprise. The future empress explained that she would very much like to know the answer. The siren hesitated greatly from such an unexpected question. The host asked the guests to greet His Majesty the Emperor and His Highness Prince Ricardo. Their majesties came later, as Serena had ordered. The blonde noted that face would have to split up. The countess explained to the girl that His Highness would be with her. Olivia explained that she was glad to spend time with Her Highness. At parting, the blonde asked her friend if she had been attracted to anyone who had recently visited the imperial palace. After a slight hesitation, the future empress explained that no one had come to mind. Serena shared that something was troubling her greatly, as Eric had information about Arinia that only the prince should know. Olivia squinted and explained that she didn't know if it was related to this issue, but there were some letters delivered quite often in the palace. The empress explained that the letters were sent using the technology of the magic tower, so they all arrived faster than the others. The girl admitted that she did not know the sender's name. The blonde quickly realized that this was not a good sign. The countess wondered who Eric had been corresponding with. The falcon quickly flew to his master to deliver another letter. Seeing the bird, Rita realized that His Highness had sent a reply. Reading it carefully, the woman wondered why Eric was so desperate to prevent the marriage of the girl and her son. Rita realized that the guy wanted to keep the monster with the powers of a dragon to himself. The queen understood that the girl would soon marry Ricardo and that she would come with him to Arena. Hearing a knock at the door, the queen allowed entry. Bowing, the maid explained that the mistress's husband wanted to see her. Rita asked to tell the king that she would come to him a little later. The queen opened another letter from the Emperor of Croviania. Smiling, the woman realized that Ricardo must never know about this correspondence. Rita remembered what His Majesty had said when he saw the bird. Eric had explained that he had never seen anything more beautiful. The boy had only admired her gaze. The queen remarked that anyone with even a hint of intelligence would have said that this bird belonged to a magic tower. The maid asked Her Highness if she should act more carefully. The maid reminded her that the boy still ruled the empire that tried to destroy their kingdom. The woman watched the mighty bird fly away into the sunset. The maid said that was not all, for according to rumors, Eric's assistant was Countess Artes. The maid explained that Siren would now want to contact the magic tower. Interrupting the maid, the mistress asked if she had ever seen the conqueror in person. The maid responded negatively, explaining that she was not there when the countess crushed the dragon's heart. And after that, the girl was forbidden to enter their country. Rita said that she had been in the same situation, so she decided to inquire about her past. The queen tried to find out who the countess was and where she lived before meeting the emperor. Her Majesty explained that she had not been able to find even a scrap of information. The queen explained that she had initially suspected that the countess had been clever in concealing any information about her past. Her Majesty explained that, to her great surprise, she realized that there was no path leading to the girl. Rita explained that the girl seemed to have just suddenly fallen into their world one day. Pressing her hand to the portrait, the queen explained that she needed to know whether the girl really existed. The events moved to the ball. The girls were talking about something of their own. Eric didn't understand how long the girls would chat. The prince explained to the blonde that it was better not to disturb their conversation. Ricardo noticed that the girls were enjoying the rare opportunity to talk. The emperor asked why the boy was so sure of that. The blonde reminded the foreign prince that he had known Serena for much longer than he had. Eric explained that he had not known that the girls had shared the first dance. Smiling, the blonde realized that the girl had meant Olivia when she said that she was going to accompany someone. Laughing, the future empress explained that she had almost forgotten about His Highness. Bowing, the servant explained that Lady Olivia was wanted urgently. The future empress asked for forgiveness, explaining that she had business to attend to. Approaching Siren, the guy asked who she planned to share her second dance with. The emperor noted that he had lost to Ricardo last time, allowing him to steal her first dance. The blonde knew she had to find out who Eric was exchanging letters with. The Countess knew she had to put an end to the guy's feelings for her. Kissing Milady's hand, the Emperor thanked her. Seeing this sight, Ricardo's heart began to beat wildly, as if trying to break out of his chest. Eric asked the girl how long it had been since they had danced. The guy asked if this was a sign of problems between them. Serena sighed heavily and explained that problems would have arisen if they had danced last time. The blonde reminded that the last time they saw each other, it was the evening in honor of her engagement. Eric wondered if she really had to spoil the mood. The Emperor noticed that the girl danced quite well. The Countess wondered if that could be considered a compliment. Eric explained that he had suffered too much while teaching her. But the first time the girl danced with Eric, her legs shook and she repeatedly stepped on his foot. The sharp heel of this red shoe dug mercilessly into the boy's foot. Eric howled in pain at that moment, but said that he was fine. Laughing, the blonde said that the girl had stepped on his foot 128,451 times. Serena asked her friend not to dramatize and reminded her that this had only happened 11 times. At those moments, the girl was puzzled as to how people could dance in such huge heels. The blonde noticed that the shoes were damn uncomfortable. Tripping, Serena began to fall. With lightning-fast reaction, Eric did not let her get hurt. Standing up again and pushing the Emperor away from her, the girl replied that she was perfectly fine. The siren noticed that the shoes were terribly uncomfortable. At that moment, the girl threw away the uncomfortable shoes and explained that it would have been better if she had not worn them at all. The Countess asked how it was possible to dance in such shoes. The siren asked her to wait and explained that she would go and get another pair. It was the first time the Emperor had seen someone discard shoes in this way simply because of inconvenience. Taking the sneakers, the girl asked how her friend would feel about her training in them. She had had these shoes since high school. Eric realized that he liked the girl like this much more. The blonde eagerly agreed to change shoes. The guy suggested going back to how to accept a partner's hand. The friends had many failed attempts at dancing and funny moments. Thanks to those trainings and the guy's work, Serena did not disgrace herself during her debut in high society. Even though many years had passed since then, the Emperor still remembered the admiring glances that the aristocracy received from those present. The blonde felt that no one had ever looked at him like that when he was alone. Over time, Eric began to perceive the girl as his savior. The time spent on the battlefield brought them closer together. Sometimes the girl would fall asleep on the Emperor's lap and say his name in her sleep. After drinking a glass of wine, the girl proudly placed it on the tray. The Emperor, after immersing himself in such warm memories, realized that he had hoped that they would spend the rest of their lives together as friends. The blonde realized that the situation had changed radically since his girlfriend wanted to leave him. The siren explained that she was only ready for 2 dances today. The blonde explained that everyone else would save it for their wedding. In order not to show his emotions, Eric asked if it was time for her to go to the groom. The girl explained that everything was fine, and the prince did not like to distract her. The Countess explained that her fiancé was too good at reading the mood. The girl went out onto the balcony with the blonde. The siren drew the guy's attention to the beauty of the stars. The blonde sank into memories, to the times when they fought hand in hand. The Countess was delighted by the beauty of the clear night. Eric asked what the girl was talking about. The blonde reminded her that the girl wanted to look at the stars with him, but in the end, she said she was too tired and passed out right away. Serena smiled and explained that she was not surprised by such a reaction. The girl asked if her memories were true, that she fell asleep on his lap. Sadly, Serena explained to her friend that she was interested in something. The Countess asked why the guy was so kind to her back then. The girl reminded that they didn't know each other at all when they first met. Siren asked the guy if he wanted to get her powers. Eric explained that at that moment, he thought they were very similar. The Emperor explained that at that time, he was just a prince who was not accepted by the people. The blonde explained that with Siren, a new world opened up before his eyes. Eric admitted that at that time, the girl seemed like family to him. The guy explained that he would be lying if he said that he was not interested in her powers. Smiling, Siren explained that he was caught. The blonde reminded that the guy was the Emperor. The girl explained that a lot had changed since then. Eric admitted that if the world turned upside down and became completely different, his feelings would remain the same. Turning around, the Countess asked the guy if he really had feelings for her. Squeezing her hands tightly, the guy asked if she knew that. The blonde asked why he was doing this if he knew that they would not succeed. Putting his hand on the girl's hand, the emperor explained that he was tired of ambiguity. Eric explained that he still loved her. The countess was very taken aback by this statement, which she did not expect to hear at all. The very nervous blonde explained that he did not want to give her away. Eric explained that he had no intention of giving the girl to that pathetic prince. Ricardo listened to this conversation with disappointment. Sharply pushing the guy away from herself, the countess explained that she could not accept his confession. Serena explained that she respected his sincerity. The blonde man, looking down, explained that this was expected for him. Looking at the stars, the girl asked what his reaction would be if she said that by returning her heart, she would lose all her strength. Siren simulated a situation where she became an ordinary person again, without any abilities. The blonde said that she had prepared herself for anything. The girl asked if his feelings would disappear that very second. Serena explained that things had been different before, but now she was a duchess who intimidated the nobility and influenced state policy. The girl explained that she wanted to achieve a lot and did not want to lose a lot. The blonde suggested that her friend had experienced something similar, but several times stronger. Siren asked if he would treat her the same way if she lost her powers. Putting her hand on Eric's shoulder, the countess explained that his feelings were his business alone. The blonde advised the guy to think about her words. Siren asked if he loved her or her power. After that, the girl quickly left the balcony. Returning to the hall, the countess felt as if a weight had fallen from her shoulders. Serena realized that if he really loved her, he would have answered without hesitation. The blonde still hadn't found out if he had made a deal with someone. The countess remembered that he would soon have a wedding. The girls were surprised that she would again abandon her fiancé like that. Ignoring the judgment, the blonde began to look for Ricardo. The prince called out to his bride in a drunken voice. Girls circled around the guy, offering him more alcohol to drink. The countess was puzzled by what was happening around the blonde. The events are transferred to a few minutes earlier. When Siren came out with the emperor to the balcony, the guy's imagination began to draw scary pictures. Ricardo felt abandoned. The girls of the Siren fan club immediately noticed that the duchess's fiancé was left without protection. Surrounding the guy, the Siren fans began asking him about Countess Artes. Pouring wine into his glass, the girl was asked to tell them everything. Ricardo was already quite drunk. The blonde pressed herself against the back of her beloved. The blonde snapped that she couldn't just leave a drunk guy with her and run away so easily. Pressing tightly to the girl, the prince began to slowly fall asleep. Siren could not understand what made the guy drink so much. The events are transferred to the countess's palace. The girl did not understand who gave the guy so much booze. Hey! The Serena realized that I had never managed to argue with him. In his drunken stupor, the guy dared to dream of returning her heart. Ricardo abruptly pulled his hand towards his beloved. The girl took his hand and watched how sweetly he slept. Siren wondered how long the boy had been practicing that speech. The countess remembered that on their first meeting, Eric had extended his hand to her after seeing her abilities. The blonde realized that Ricardo was talking about her heart and promised to help her become human again. Watching the peacefully sleeping prince, Serena realized that she still did not know his sincere intentions. The girl, of course, stroked the groom's hand. The countess suddenly heard a heartbeat and realized that Ricardo was not sleeping at all. The prince asked his bride to tell him the reason for her doubts. The blonde reminded that the girl knew perfectly well what he expected from her. For a few moments, he dreamed of a passionate kiss as a sign of love. The siren asked the guy sternly if it was the result of alcohol in his blood. The girl sternly asked how much he had drunk. The girl asked what had come over him. Ricardo really wanted to ask his beloved how she responded to His Majesty's confession. The prince's heart was breaking with excitement that his bride allowed the emperor to kiss her, as well as him, that is. The blonde realized that if he told the girl about his true feelings, he would become a burden for her. Gently pressing his face to her palm, Ricardo asked if she still considered him just a good friend. The blonde fell asleep pretty quickly after what was said. Serena was surprised that the guy put on such a show and then just fell asleep. In his sleep, Ricardo resembled a small kitten curled up in a ball. The blonde promised herself that she would do it only once. Siren lay down next to the guy and pressed herself against his chest. The girl realized that her body had been cold for so long that she had forgotten what it was like. Memories of her best friend from her past life surfaced in the blonde's head. The rays of the dawn sun were breaking through the shutters. The newlyweds were sitting at the table. With a trembling voice, Ricardo explained that he was very sorry for yesterday's incident. The girl asked again what he was apologizing for, if he didn't even remember anything. The blonde realized that drinking so much was a huge mistake in itself. The prince explained that if he woke up in her bedroom, he was afraid to even imagine what else I could do. The blonde created the idea that if she told the groom about yesterday's kiss, his heart would stop. The countess reassured the groom that everything was fine and asked him not to worry. Serena calmly explained that nothing remarkable had happened yesterday. The blonde explained that she was grateful to him because she hadn't slept in someone else's arms for a long time. Serena allowed the idea to move in together. The girl asked if he wanted to sleep not every night. The prince asked again in surprise. The blonde explained that he was very warm and she felt comfortable sleeping next to him. Ricardo explained it. It was too cruel a joke. Without hesitation, the countess reminded them that they were engaged. The prince promised that it would be a great honor for him. The blonde asked if they were rushing things too much. Ricardo reminded that they didn't even have a wedding. With a smile on her face, the lady reminded that it wasn't that important because their wedding would be soon. Serena reminded that this was also part of the agreement. The blonde said that she would go to the prince's land and find her heart at the same time and defeat the queen who subjected the guy to terrible torture. Smiling, the guy remembered that from the very beginning, they were connected only by an agreement. Siren asked the blonde to tell a little about Queen Rita. Ricardo asked the girl if she had her own opinion about Her Majesty. The girl admitted that she had done some research. Rita was the third wife of the current ruler. There were many rumors about the queen. Because she never attended high society events, the woman preferred literature and philosophy classes. Rita suddenly married the king and gained unprecedented power. The blonde explained that all this information was on the surface. It was very important to the bride what Ricardo thought about his stepmother. The girl realized that if her guesses were correct, then only the queen could tell Eric about the arena and what Rika knew about it. Serena realized that she clearly underestimated the queen. The blonde made it clear that before going to arena, she had to find out who this woman was. Ricardo explained that, putting aside his personal feelings, his stepmother was an incredibly wise person. The blonde was surprised to hear such a review about a man who had been bullying the guy for many years. The prince explained that there were rumors that Rita had used the king's love to gain power. The boy explained that this was not the case at all. Ricardo explained that, in fact, his stepmother had fully taken over the kingdom in his father's place because the woman was a much better ruler. The blonde explained that no matter how well you got to know the queen, she would still surprise you through and through. Ricardo noticed that the woman was insightful and wise. The guy warned that, first of all, the queen was persistent and had a great command of the art of persuasion. Ricardo noticed that Rita only wanted the best for his kingdom. The blonde remembered that the woman had once treated him with the same reverence. Interrupting the guy, Siren asked what his story meant. The blonde asked if he had forgotten what the queen had become of him. Ricardo explained that I, Majesty, had not been myself lately. The prince explained that in the past. The bride interrupted the guy again. Let us recall that in the past she had shoved him into the laboratory. The countess asked if a person who experimented on a child could wish the best for anyone. Ricardo explained that he believed it was right. The blonde explained that if he had a lover, he would still be in that horrible laboratory. The girl realized that her plan had failed. The blonde had hoped to learn more about Rita from her stepson until this moment. Serena realized that the boy had been brainwashed as a child. The countess realized that she had no choice but to find out everything herself. The blonde jumped up abruptly and asked the guy if he was free today. The siren suggested that the groom, if he was bored, rob the magic tower with her. The girl found it difficult to remember how many years had passed since she had last entered the tower. The blonde explained that she had returned to find that an old acquaintance was still the leader. Siren wondered if the mage tower had become as rotten as the aristocracy. The head of the Tower of Magicians, Julius, asked how the lady could make such an accusation. The countess curiously asked if she was wrong. The girl reminded that a new head was chosen every 3 years using a complex test. The blonde asked how the guy managed to maintain his position all these years. Julius explained that this was evidence of his abilities. Pomraknev Sirena asked what abilities the guy with blue hair was talking about. The girl asked if he had enough mental capacity to make a door that connected the basement of the casino and the huge ring. Trembling, Julius asked the Countess how she knew about this. The siren noted that his decision to connect such a large space with an institution adjacent to the capital was quite an impudent decision. The blonde asked what would have happened if the place had actually been. She recalled that it was a gathering of military personnel of the aristocratic circle. Trembling all over, the boy argued to Her Highness that this was complete nonsense. The siren noticed that many of the aristocrats' brains didn't work at all. The blonde noticed that he probably happily agreed as soon as he heard that they would pay well there. The Countess assumed that His Majesty did not understand the structure of the magician's tower as well as she did. Bowing, the magician sincerely apologized to Her Highness. Julius admitted that he had committed a mortal sin. The guy explained that he did it because they didn't have enough money to continue medical research. Julius begged the girl for forgiveness. The prince couldn't help but laugh when the boy tried to justify himself. Serena asked Rick not to laugh at the magician so much. The Countess agreed to turn a blind eye to the incident. The girl said that in return, she wanted the mage to investigate something else. The blonde realized that in reality, Eric wanted to hush up the incident. Intimidated, Julius was ready to do anything to save his pathetic skin. Serena reported that she heard that they had a private section in the mage post office. Siren knew that the post office was exclusive to high-ranking nobles and the imperial family. She reported that she knew that certain letters were being delivered to the palace quite frequently. The girl put forward her hypothesis that the letters arrived faster due to the intervention of the Tower of Magicians. Serena asked the boy to look into Emperor Eric's personal department and find out if he had ever corresponded with Queen Rita. Trembling, Julius said that they did not want to get involved in political strife. The magician said in a trembling voice that he did not know the contents of the letters. The blonde reminded him that she had only asked to check whether such letters existed. Taking the guy's face firmly, Siren asked if it was really such an impossible task. Many letters were scattered in an attempt to find what the siren wanted. The boy reported that on the table were notes about the recent activity of the Emperor's personal correspondence. The Countess looked at each letter carefully. Looking through the letters, the blonde noticed that there were not many letters sent to Arinia. Serena realized that a magician was needed to send a secret letter. The girl realized that this was the most secret and secretive correspondence in the world. The blonde was amazed that even she had somehow found this function. Tears were streaming down Yuli's face. The magician was very worried about his future. The blonde wanted to know how important the matters were that the two were discussing. The Countess realized that she wanted to know the details of their correspondence now. Serena knew that this would be problematic at the moment. The blonde knew that the queen was not to be taken lightly. The Countess was aware that Rita was leaving traces, but she still had no clue to catch her. Siren assumed that the queen had foreseen that someone would later investigate all this. The blonde couldn't believe that the queen of a defeated state had become Eric's ally. After reviewing dozens of letters, the Countess informed the groom that things would not go this way. The siren reminded the boy that he was obliged to live with Mir. One of the maids was delighted with what a brilliant proposal the girl made to her fiancé. Marina asked what His Highness answered. The blonde explained that her chosen one tried to dissuade her, talking about honor, traditions, and other nonsense. The Countess explained that the guy could do nothing, and of course agreed to her proposal. The blonde ran away from the guy just to live with her, and claimed that the palace was dangerous. The brunette noticed that the gossip columns were writing that Serena's cold heart had melted, and she had finally fallen in love. Smiling, the girl lied that the rumors were true. The blonde realized that the marriage was simply convenient for her. The stylist could not believe that she had the opportunity to create a dress for a passionate man in love. The brunette explained that it was indeed a great honor for her. The luxurious white dress emphasized the girl's waist. Looking at her wedding dress, the Countess realized that it was magnificent. Smiling, the blonde claimed that she would gladly walk down the aisle like that. Looking at the bride, Marina noticed that she was missing something to complete the look. The Countess explained that the problem was not in the dress or accessories, but in her hair. The stylist asked the lady if she planned to change her hairstyle. Sitting in the wedding hall, Ricardo looked at every little detail. The guy tried to make sure that they definitely did not forget anything. He realized that by the time the girl had finished trying on the dress, most of the preparations for the celebration would be done. The prince dreamed that this wedding should be more beautiful than all that had come before. Ricardo knew that if the wedding was extravagant, the more likely it was that people would talk about it. The prince wanted the nobility to believe in their genuine love. Ricardo knew that the nobility would discuss the fact that the girl loved him so much that she wanted to go to his homeland. The guy hoped that in this way, their going to Arinia immediately after the wedding would not look so tactless. To his regret, the blonde realized that this was hardly a fabricated event. Ricardo glanced at his luxurious gold watch, counting the minutes. Coming out of the fitting room, the girl explained that they had to make some adjustments. Siren became a brunette, luxurious dark hair falling to her waist. The countess anxiously asked her stylist if she should dye her hair. Marina explained to the lady that it would greatly change her style. The brunette explained that His Highness was sitting outside. Marina suggested that the girl first ask her fiancé's opinion. The countess was well aware that the boy would answer that she was beautiful. The mistress asked the maids not to be so surprised. The siren explained that her fiancé had a habit of telling her that she was beautiful. The blonde knew that Ricardo would definitely say that everything looked great and that the new hair color suited her very well. Taking a lock of hair, the guy carefully examined the new color. Serena couldn't imagine that he could react like that. Darting his eyes from side to side, the blonde tried to find words. The guy noticed that the bride had dyed her hair. The Serena couldn't understand why her fiancé looked so upset. Ricardo asked if that was her real hair color. The countess said she dyed her hair all the time. Smiling, Serena insisted that the boy was the only one who didn't know. Rico pointed out that he never said he didn't know. The countess explained that only a few knew that her true hair color was black. The siren suggested that perhaps no one but Eric knew. The prince explained that few, including him. The girl told her fiancé that now he knew her secret too. The brunette asked her fiancé's opinion. The siren explained that her stylist thought that this color would suit her wedding dress better. The boy awkwardly admitted that he liked her blonde hair. Ricardo explained that few people knew a lady with sable hair. The blonde explained that it would be a shame to let everyone see her secret. A little confused, the brunette asked what the guy meant. Ricardo explained to the girl that he liked her very much. The prince assumed that the lady was not interested in him at all. Pulling a lock of hair from his hands, the girl asked him to stop being so affectionate. The siren explained that she didn't want to hear anything like that, even as a joke. Sitting down next to the girl, the prince asked why it irritated her so much. The countess explained that all this love had recently been giving her only a headache. The bride asked if she hadn't told her chosen one about it. The brunette explained that when Eric confessed his feelings to her, she had to tell him to stop this nonsense and leave. The guy got very nervous after hearing this information. Ricardo asked, again, what the girl had just told him. Without hesitation, the countess explained that the emperor already had a fiancé, but he had confessed his feelings to her anyway. With a smile on her face, Serena explained that her refusal was cold-blooded. Noticing the groom's reaction, the girl wondered if he knew about it. The brunette could tell from his expression that the blonde already knew about it. The Serena realized how obvious and predictable Eric was. The brunette explained that the guy should have told her this earlier. The countess explained that she would try to keep her distance from her old friend. The girl explained that she did not want to complicate things for them. The prince explained that everything was fine. Siren asked the guy if he was holding back. The girl asked why he was so careful, even with her. The brunette explained that her fiancé could have said that he couldn't stand Eric and suggested leaving the empire. The countess explained that he could have said something like that. The prince explained that he could not do such a thing, knowing how much the empire meant to the girl. Ricardo insisted that he did not want to interfere with her. The Serena wondered how important the empire was to her. With a smile on his face, the blonde reminded him that the girl had already rejected the emperor's offer. Ricardo explained that the girl had mentioned a cold-blooded refusal in conversation, and that was enough for him. The prince insisted that he didn't care what might happen in the future or what others said. Ricardo assured that as long as he was with the girl, he was content. Gently taking her hand, the guy asked her not to worry about him. The blonde hoped that after the wedding, the girl would do whatever she wanted. Olivia greeted Her Highness. The future empress noticed the lovely color of the guest's hair. Olivia asked what brought the guest to her house. After a little hesitation, Serena explained that she had something to tell her friend. The countess replayed the events in her head many times and did not know how to tell her bride about it. The siren realized that it would be wrong to hide from the future empress what had happened to Eric. The brunette realized that she hadn't really thought about it as she walked to the palace. The countess explained to her friend that she had something to tell her. Serena was very nervous, trying to find the right words in her internal monologue. The future empress asked what Serena wanted to say. The brunette knew she couldn't do it. Breathing heavily, the countess told her that they were planning to spend their honeymoon in Arinia. Olivia was surprised at how far her friend was planning to travel. The brunette explained that the country was Ricardo's homeland. The Serena explained that she had not been there for a long time. The girl could not admit that they were going there to find her heart. Despite the fact that she had become very close to Olivia, she could not tell her this secret. The future empress wondered if her friend had come to tell her where their honeymoon would take place. Serena explained that she had really just come to chat. Olivia explained to her ladyship that she herself had something she wanted to tell her. The future empress explained that her chosen one shared something with her. Olivia explained that her fiancé told her that he confessed his feelings to Serena. The brunette almost spilled hot tea on herself.